we rode from Mexico to Oregon, but geez, 4 more days we could be in Canada.
You've got to know your size, and so when people say adventure bike and dual sport, they're two different types of rides for two different types of machinery.
It makes that KTM 640 look like, well, I think they ended up selling them all to Sherwin-Williams for paint shakers.
I hope a lot of people learned about like the history of dual sport riding and where you can go and some things you can do. I hope it inspires some younger guys to get into it and explore, whether you're doing a turkey run or whether you're coming out here and doing a dual sport ride, or you're maybe thinking about an adventure bike too. I don't know why anybody would want to ride one of those, but if you do, get a Tenere.
Well, I agree with your philosophy totally, but getting it implemented is a bitch.
How about mics? I just did it. I just threw mics in there.
Yeah, they seem good.
We're going to get this show off to the kind of start we're used to. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. It's episode number 253. Be careful with that. It's a sensitive mic. I can hear it on my earphones. If you are hearing audio, let us know, because sometimes things. Flying Brian says, "Let's ride, Jimmy." I totally agree with that. Let's ride. That was the one thing I wanted to fix, because there's a delay between that and the one that's on the screen up there. It's like we have a delay. I don't know. There's probably a setting someplace. I don't know how it works. But welcome everybody to the show. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday is the show where we talk about motorcycle and motorcycle related products, and we're just going to sit here and stare at the screen unless you message a friend and make them watch the show. But while we're doing this, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that my co-host tonight, good friend of mine, another Valley of the Dirt People loco, I said. Yeah. Big John Perkins.
I live by a golf course. It's,
Yep.
it's a prump golf course.
It's a prump golf course, but it's
more dirt than grass.
It's the executive golf course, correct? Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah.
Executive golf course. That's a nice thing. So Big John's back. He was Big Broken John last time, but he's been riding. Your kids took you on a 30-mile trail ride.
I did 30 miles.
Yep.
I mean, it took me a gallon of premix with the kid to get him 30 miles on a 50, but we got it done. It was nice.
Nice.
Just the kind of perfect break-in ride,
Well, welcome to the show. John always asks some good questions. He tries to keep me in my place over here as I try to push all these buttons and fix things. But tonight on the show, we have a special guest. Hopefully we have. He's actually in the meeting, but I haven't seen him pop up onto the screen just yet. Maybe I have screwed something up and I have to let him in, which wouldn't surprise me. Let me see. His mic's muted. He's there. Jerry Counts.
Stand by. Yeah.
Who is the I'd like to call him like one of the godfathers of dual sport riding, and I'm going to let him tell the story on how he became that and what he did. And I mean, he's got a crazy long history. Still to this day is putting on dual sport rides, adventure rides, and mostly because he has to. And not because he has to make money. He has to because he wants to keep trails open. He's doing stuff so he can do it legally. He's doing it because he wants to keep trails open, and a lot of good things. And I was asked a question on the show last time. It's like, hey, Jimmy, what do you think about what Jerry Counts does? And I'm like, I like what Jerry Counts does, because I'll never tell you where I go riding. I like to keep that, because I go riding in the best places I can. I'm not going to give it out. So Jerry does, and somebody thought, well, what do you think about what Jerry does? And I like the way that Jerry does it. He's thoughtful about how he promotes his rides. They're remote. They're through places you should be allowed to ride, and he has a really good way of doing it. I'll let him explain all that, and if he if he hops into the meeting, then we can have him on the show. But I tell you what, we're going to go straight into questions. I did tell him that we're going to work on this. All good in California. No, it's not all good in California. I heard that well, you have to pay a lot of taxes. Your gas went up $1, and that's not good, is it?
Boy, howdy, Jimmy! I put fuel in my ambulance on the way back from
from my place
today.
And you wonder why I drive around with fuel drums in the back of my truck all the time.
$7 a gallon.
Oh, geez. So yeah, Steve, I'm here to listen to Jerry too. We'll figure out when he pops on the show. I may have to send him a text message or something like that. I do have my phone in my pocket. Oh, there. I see. I just saw him pop up. But since he made us wait, I'm going to make him wait for one second here. The one thing we do on this show is we also answer your motorcycle product related questions. So if you have questions, if you're in the chat, if you're watching this live, we're very interactive with that. If you're watching it as a rerun, ask questions in the chat. They pop up. We will answer them on the next episode if it's like later, because we always get back to it. So I'm going to go to the first question from I believe it's our last show, if I can push on the right button. And John is just amazed at my horrible screen setup here.
It's probably not how I would set it up, but hey, if it works, it.
Oh, so you're not amazed? Okay, then your job is to read this question, and we'll start right here.
Well, I'm not really that good at reading, but I can do that. Jimmy,
because I need to drink.
I got you, Jimmy. Your damn podcast is amazing. Oh, addictive. Sorry, love it. After 40 years of riding, I wish I had this podcast 40 years ago. Is this a question, or does this make you feel better? Or? Where are we going with this?
I always feel really good.
I got you.
Go ahead.
You have me wanting to do the Nora. Youngest kid just graduated. I'm thinking of seeing financial. What is that?
And everybody used to give Logan crap.
I don't read. I'm fully, I'm up to it. I'm not, I didn't get that far in school, but.
And you notice I don't make myself read these questions very often.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what that word.
So I'm thinking of.
What that word means.
He says, "I'm thinking of seeking financial if I should do the Nora."
That's what.
Yeah, he might be. He might be Canadian, and this is like his second language, English.
Are you going back to? You want to hop back and forth here? Or?
No, you start right there.
Okay, so seeing if I should do the Nora. I have a Cove 450. And would need to put a rally book reader on it. Not a big deal. It would be 2026 when I do it, as I would have a lot to prepare. I'm one of those guys that live underground. So digital or paper.
So he is Canadian.
Yeah, he must be. So digital or paper. What brand? I use a DMD2. Don't think it would be good enough. What road book training should I do? Oh, I know a guy.
I do too.
I don't know if he's open to the public, but... I have a flat deck trailer with lock boxes, or should I buy an enclosed trailer or van? Vans are awesome.
Says the guy who has an ambulance.
Yeah, but it's a van front end. It's technically the same thing. Theft reasons, or don't worry about it. I would definitely worry about it. What moose, which I have never used, you'll love them, and tire do you recommend? How many each? Oh, we got a lot of questions.
Okay, so this is from Neil Ranger. Neil, we're gonna come back to your questions. So we're gonna get to Jerry Counts. I don't want to keep him waiting longer than he kept me waiting. Let's see. Hopefully, when this works, Jerry, welcome to the show. Wait a minute. There's a call and get. How about this?
Oh, nailed it.
There we go. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, we gave you an introduction. I called you one of the godfathers of dual sport riding. Would that be accurate?
Definitely there from the beginning.
Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest is if you can raise your camera up, so we don't chop your head off. Perfect. There we go. Jerry Counts, welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We're gonna get in, and I want to learn a little bit more, or at least clear up my foggy memory. Tell me the story again. How did you get started doing what we call dual sport rides today?
Well, I have to give credit. I think the real godfather was New England Trail Rider magazine.
Wow.
Familiar? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, well, I knew Paul Clipper, who bought Trail Rider magazine when he went
Correct.
back. So
before Paul bought it, it was a club magazine, for members only. And in 1978 and 79, I traveled to all the Western National Enduros with a Honda rider named Don Sanford from Texas. And we would spend 5 weeks going from enduro to enduro to enduro. Am I still cut off?
No, you're good.
Okay. And we'd talk about everything, mostly how to cheat on enduros. But one of the subjects came up. Don informed me about New England Trail Rider magazine and that they had a centerfold every month. And the centerfold, instead of being a typical Playboy nude, was a roll chart, a self-guided, self-navigating roll chart for a motorcycle ride. Don't know if it was dual sport, but it was dirt. And back there, most of the dirt riding is on power lines and stuff. But anyway, he explained to me what a roll chart was and how which is kind of a derivation from the old rally instructions from sports cars, etc. And but it had turn-by-turn mileage, and unlike the rallies, which are kind of tricky to see if you're smart enough to follow it, the self-navigating roll charts were as clear as possible to not get people lost. And he told me about this. You had to rip out the centerfold, cut it in these 2 1/4-inch strips, and tape them together. And that planted it in my brain. Wow, what a good idea. And like I said, this was 78 or 79.
Were you making the roll chart holders yet?
Yes, because I sent you a picture of all the stuff I made, and many of the people watching your podcast, see if they're old enough. That's me on my Triumph 500.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'll try to pause it on that if I can. There we go. There's all of the different things that you made. So this was a company called Countdown Products.
Correct. Upper right-hand corner was the Countdown combo. It was a roll chart holder and a clock in one lightweight package that screwed right to the crossbar that everybody had with 2 hose clamps. And we were using roll charts at the time, but it was for timekeeping. It had 2 columns, time versus miles. And this self-navigating roll chart was altogether different. Well, anyway, planted the idea of that in my mind, and fast forward almost 5 years later, after ending my enduro career in 79 and then working for Al Baker and Honda Japan in 81, 82, 83. In 84, I laid out a 3-day, 600-mile dual sport ride from Saugus, California to Kernville, California to Lucerne Valley and back. And I took all the mileages of all the turns. I had an old enduro friend. This is before PCs. And he...
there was life before a PC?
Well...
Ever heard of GPS? Didn't you just log it on your GPS?
Not quite. Have you ever heard of the Commodore computer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. I used to program a Radio Shack TRS-80.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt because today when we were talking about the stupid little kids that you have around to fix you when you can't figure out how to make something work. I was one of those. I could do stuff on my little computer, my TRS-80, that would blow away my teachers at school, but that's the same sort of thing because you're that next level above where I was at, and so I was like really technical savvy, and you should just watch me fumble with the stuff these days, and I could get a kid in here and he'd go, "Oh, Grandpa."
Well, that was me with computers. But anyway, one of my first enduro teammate guy was a programmer and had a TRS-80, Trash 80, as they were called at the time. and he wrote a program that would drive a printer to print. And I don't remember what kind of printer he had, but it would take adding machine paper, and it was probably a printer meant for office use, retail sales or something, maybe. Anyway, could print an endless, from a roll adding machine paper, endless roll chart, and it was all text. There were no arrows or anything like that, and like L at plus sign meant turn left at the cross intersection, and had the mileage of that. And so you wrote the roll chart in the instructions, and we printed it on that. And in '84, I invited several of my motorcycle friends, which were a bunch of guys from Malcolm Smith Distributing and a bunch of guys from Dirt Rider Magazine, and then a few personal friends. And we did that 600 miles, 3-day ride. And that was, I believe, the first, quote, dual, and it was dual sport. We stayed in motels in towns. Back then, dual sport was pretty easy. You hung a brake light on any old off-road bike and got it. And so anyway, I believe that was the first dual sport ride and the first use of a roll chart.
Yeah, and you sent me some of the articles from Charlie Moray in the Dirt Rider, and this is the early days of Dirt Rider magazine.
It was the first year, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were very progressive on a lot of the how are we going to evolve. And then you also told me kind of an interesting story of why the other reason why you started doing it was because we started losing a lot of land to be able to race on. Before you could kind of race any place, and then they really started limiting the places that you could race. And I know I'm from talking with guys like Larry Langley and some of the guys that were putting on some of the different enduros with, all the district enduro clubs used to have races. The prospectors used to have one out at Tokiwas. The UEA used to go up into the mountains around Lake Isabella. There was checkpoints used to have up in Big Bear, and then all of a sudden, a lot of those places became impossible to do racing, but you still wanted to be able to do rides there.
Absolutely. The early days of the Greenhorn started at Johnson Motors on whatever boulevard it was in Pasadena, went to Greenhorn Mountains. And I think it was point to point. It overnighted maybe at Gorman or something, and then finally ended
in Ridge. I think in Ridgecrest, because Crazy Nate's our buddy Nate Shakwa, his famous story about winning the Greenhorn. He rolled into Ridgecrest. He wanted to quit. He had a broken frame and all this stuff like that, and he probably just wanted a beer or something like that, or some whiskey. And they got him tuned up, got his bike tuned up, and he kept going.
I have a story like that too, with a broken swing arm on the Greenhorn that I finished. But anyway, me and my teammates, we did pretty well on those long, hard rides. Our best was in '74, I think it was, when there were 500 starters and only 50 finishers. And the three of us all, I think, got first in class, and we were the only team to finish. And so we won the team trophy, even though we were B riders. So we really enjoyed those long ones. Tecate 500, very favorite enduro. And so when the enduros started getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and this dual sport activity started, and at the same time, a whole lot of the people of my era had retired from racing, and that was in 1990 or 91 when we formed the dual sport division of District 37. And Larry and I both wanted to do the long stuff. So we immediately started doing 2-day, 3, 4, 500-mile dual sport rides.
Oh, boy. We might have just had a technical issue, but something slowed down. It might keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We lost something on the...
Okay.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a down time. At least we're recording it, so if it's disconnected, it's trying again. Uh-oh. It's attempting on the screen, so we'll keep going no matter what because I can fix this in post.
Okay.
But, the internet's world, they're gonna have to hold off for a second here, and of course when this starts happening, people start texting me and tell me something's broken. Oh, wasn't too bad. Okay, so that was a little bit of a drop there, Jerry. I'm gonna blame John because John's probably connected to my Wi-Fi, and you're watching another show.
I'm not.
You're not? Okay.
This is standard. I'm paying for this.
We should have taken a break and drank our tequila here, Jerry. So you made a little bit on this show. It's called Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We leave tequila out of the title just because I like to, have things. But tonight, for anybody who's wondering, our special tequila that we are going to kill the bottle. Maybe that's a lot more than we kill. This is Tinta Negra. This is a nice one that I got down in Mexico. Brought up. And we'll see how that goes. But the problem is the host of the show did not. I didn't bring any. I cleaned all the shot glasses. Usually, they're just laying all over the table here, like all the other junk. There's nothing to have it off of. So we'll get that during our. We don't have a commercial break anymore because it had copyrighted music. Yeah. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Yamaha, of course. The main sponsor of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Yamaha has a awesome line of new 2026 YZs. You need to go down to your Yamaha dealer and then you tell them Tech Talk Taco Tuesday sent you. And I'm going to get a YZ 125. So there we go. Because
finally picking up another one.
In 1991, Jerry, that's when my racing career started getting better. So you guys went off to dual sport world. And then since all you old guys that used to know how to time keep left, some dumb kid that sort of knew how to time keep, could ride really fast, could win enduros. How's that for a segue?
I know.
So
enduros were it was interesting. It was sort of the intellectual motorcycle racing. Could you do math in your head while you're riding almost as fast as you can go? And that's not easy.
I'm gonna. It's interesting because when I started doing enduros, I started with one of your roll chart holders, and here's how I found out who Jerry was or knew who Jerry was. Is my dad worked at a fire station in Northridge, right down the street from where Jerry had his shop set up, and my dad would go in there and talk to him. He's always trying to get me sponsors or something. My dad was going to go on I don't know, it was Colorado 500 or something, but somehow he needed to go to your shop to get something, and the firemen always come in and they want a discount. It's the first thing they do. And then he probably told you he had a kid that was really
house in the fire truck.
Yeah, and he probably told you he had a kid that was really fast or whatever. So he had actually, I think he got it to go riding with a bunch of firemen down in Mexico, but he got the roll chart holder, the little thin one. Because I think they were able to put the tulip notes onto that thin piece of paper like you were talking about. And I had ADD or something like no, they said I was artistic. I don't know what it was, but they didn't call it. They just
that didn't come around until later.
No, it's
Jimmy,
hyperactive. They said I was hyperactive, John. You have some hyperactive kids, don't you? Yeah. So I was something like that. So just regular racing a motorcycle, like I couldn't do motocross. I mean, I did motocross and I was pretty good at it, but I get bored because I had to wait in between my motos. And so I ended up started doing off-road, and a friend took me to enduro, and I burnt every check. So I thought I won it, but they told me how bad I did when I finally did it. And then I go, oh, I got to get one of those things. And so I stole it off my dad's XT350. I stole that thing, and then I taped my stopwatch, and I went out the next time, and I read all the instructions to figure out how to do it, and I did a lot better. Again, these were just CRC family enduros. But then I found out who Jerry was because he had a thing that had the roll chart and the clock on the on one thing. Because my buddy who was winning these things at the time, a kid named Jason Ingersoll, he would win the family enduros. He had this thing that had the roll chart and the clock on it, and I'm like, I need that. So I didn't get one for a long time because they were expensive. What were they? How much were they, Jerry?
$100.
$100. I couldn't afford $100. I think I was getting my tires at the time for like maybe $28, I think is what it cost me for a tire. And I'd, use it till the knobs went off. But, yeah, that was a piece, but I actually skipped that whole era of having that combo. And because then the computers, the ICO pacemaker or something came out. And I remember in my enduro days, we would have like a little pacemaker programming party with my Ventura County Motorcycle Club. We'd all sit around and we'd read the roll chart and push the buttons because it was pretty difficult.
About what year would this be? I wasn't quite around for any of those decades.
Yeah, so this is 90, 80, 88, 89, 90-ish, I think, is when that was coming in. But you were definitely part of all that for sure. Yes.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to tell a story, and maybe I have it wrong. But as I said, I put on this dual sport ride in '84, and perfected this roll chart thing, and then I was already in Countdown and selling mail order. So I thought, I can sell these rides, and so I laid one out from again Saugus up to Gorman for lunch and back, and then I think I did another shorter one through Angeles Forest, and yes. I tried selling them in Cycle News for $1, and didn't work very well, and I finally went out of business. But I believe I sold one of those charts to your father, and I think you got a follow-up story on that chart.
Yeah, so I didn't know exactly where this thing came from, but it was in that roll chart, that little roll chart holder. And so I went and did it. And I think it was, if you did it in 84, I probably did it in like 87 or something. And things had changed.
Yes.
Yeah. And things had changed a little bit. Like there was some washouts and some stuff. And I don't even remember what bike. I might have just taken his XT350. I just would ride anything I get my hands on. And I went and did a dual sport ride before it was really a thing. I mean, I didn't know what it was. and then I'm like, wow, you can ride all of these other places, because I knew Gorman and I knew Ballinger and I knew, you go to Red Mountain or, these different places you could go riding, but I didn't know that there was trails in between them. And then you could connect them by, riding on the street, because I just recently got my driver's license in my motor. And then I got an XT600. I did some extra testing for Yamaha one day, and they wanted to pay me back. And I had a dirt bike magazine XT600 that they didn't want to have anything to do with. I love that thing. It had a license plate.
So that's the perfect bike for all that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I started using your roll charts, Jerry.
So anyway, then in 90, when District 37 formed that division, Larry Langley and I went into business together. And there were several other people. Oh, back to I didn't realize you were in VCMC. In 84, when I did the 3-day 600 thing, that within months of when I did it, Terry Nichols, who was an old prospect, and then VCMC, he did a dual sport ride. And I think he marked his with ribbon, didn't use a roll chart. But he and I put on the first two for-fee events. And, I don't even think I charged the guys. Mine was invitational because it was the guys from the magazine I was advertising in and Malcolm Smith's guys that I did business with.
Right. And so
Barry gets some credit for doing the first dual sport event, and both of us did it in '84, which one of those articles I sent you covers that. A brand new sport, dirt bike had never heard of, or dirt rider, excuse me. Yeah,
and like I say, I'm just a kid. I'm more focused on my racing at the time, but I kind of knew this was going on. Where did someone like Damon Powell and dual sport dogs and that whole thing kind of? Do you remember when he popped up?
This thing took off with a bang. And all the old enduro clubs put on dual sport rides. Chaparrals did it. Everybody was doing it. Damon found out about it, and they'd also been dabbling in the LA Barstow to Vegas protest. The LA to Barstow to Vegas dual sport were protest rides for the race being canceled. And so there was a lot of publicity. Damon came along and he formed a for-profit business and he started putting them on. And after probably the second year, we had a rule, you had to do them every other weekend, not two adjacent weekends. And we were putting on 24 dual sport rides a year in District 37.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it was getting popular, and I totally forgot about that. The whole, so I raced the last two Barstow to Vegases when they kind of did it. I even did the one that they actually, because they couldn't do Barstow to Vegas, they did loops around Lucerne and called it, a B to V something or other. But
after the shutdown for a few years.
Yeah, they tried to redo it, but they couldn't. But I remember those. I was working at Dirt Bike Magazine as an intern, and so I was working with Rick Simon when this stuff was going on, all the protests with Earth First and crazy stuff like that. So I don't think a lot of people realize that the Barstow to Vegas dual sport ride is kind of a shell of the old, especially when you go from Barstow to Vegas, the LA B to V now. Uses a lot of the old power line roads and the existing roads that the original race did, and it is an evolution because when those guys did the protest ride, they all rode dual sport rides so they wouldn't get in trouble because it was legal. What they were doing was legal at the time. If they were not part of a protest ride, and I think that's how Lewis McKay ended up fighting it off. And we can kind of get into some of the you've had your fair share of run-ins with the government on different things. But had they just gone out there as recreational riders, everything that they were doing was completely legal. And I guess in the end, they were found to be completely legal. Correct?
Yes, probably the only where Lewis stepped over the line was he ribboned the course, or somehow it got ribboned. I rode it 4 or 5 years from Barstow to Vegas on his ribbon. And the funny thing is, I would go out there alone, unload my bike, and take off. And within the first 30 miles, I'd bump into somebody I knew, and we'd ride together all the way to Vegas. Then.
Yeah, and I still ride. I mean, I ride back and forth from Pahrump back to California all the time, and I still ride a lot of that stuff. And I've been privy to get my hands on some old maps of where some of the original courses used to go. And even clubs like the Checkers are really trying to get back into some of their roots and do a dual sport ride of the old Check Chase.
Yeah,
which is really cool. Yeah, I heard you've been
legality of how to do it without a permit.
Yep. And so this is where we get into, so you've been promoting dual sport rides going on now. Like, let me do some math. That's got to be older. It's older than John.
Yeah, I just
35 years.
30, yeah, so 30. He's been doing. How old are you?
32.
32. So when you were still a sparkle in your dad's eye,
a couple years prior to that,
our guest here, Jerry Counts, who's with us from where do people find you? It's I know you set up the Mexico to Canada, mex2can.com is one of your websites.
I want to get into that story, but I have two websites, mex2can.com, which is up and running. When we discussed the organization of the show earlier, I gave you my other one. My main one, which has a calendar, is Dual Sport West, all one word, .com. I went and checked it, and it's down. Apparently, GoDaddy did something to me this week, and my software guy is working on it as we speak.
So I will put those in the description of the video. I'll make sure I link those in here someplace so people can go find where to check these things out. But you're still actively putting on how many rides during the year?
Now I do 7 2-day rides a year. Well, one of them is a 3-day ride.
Yeah.
I do in the winter. I do 3 out of Ridgecrest, California. 2 of them through Death Valley and back. And then in the fall, I do 4, and that's I do 1 out of Mammoth, 1 out of Lone Pine, and now I do 2 in Arizona.
Right. So I'll tell you, these are really good classic dual sport rides. There's stuff that you could ride by yourself at any time. I mean, you would be able to just hop on your bike and go ride these. But the good thing, if you're unfamiliar with the area and Jerry's able to give you a roll chart, or actually not a roll chart, you do GPS track logs now.
Now it's all GPS. No more roll chart.
I forgot they make these things called GPSs now. They're like magic. Yeah, it's like a line, and you just keep your arrow on the line.
Yeah, just keep it pointed up, huh?
And you just go where it says. You don't even have to have an odometer anymore. What's an odometer?
Right. The one advantage of dual sport for a lot of your people, if you're not familiar with an area and you can enter a dual sport ride, it's a full day of riding. You're not going to come to any lock gates or any hills you can't get up or afraid to go down. It's a turnkey fun day of riding that lets you learn that area. And I get a lot of people, they may ride my Mammoth ride 2 years, and then now they pretty well know the area, and then they go out alone and just do their own exploring.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, we'll call it an area starter kit.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good. Area starter kit. Yes, that is exactly. And I go out, I ride every trail out there, and I record them all with GPS, and then I put together what I think is the most fun to me riding loop. Try to avoid the rocks and the hoops and stuff people don't like.
And kudos to you for doing that. And then another thing I wanted to get into with some of this stuff is like, you have found some old trails and reopened them. Some of my good friends have gone out and worked on trails with you. I've gone out and worked on trails with them, and they're like, "Oh, Jerry's going to put our ride on here," and we're going on an old railroad grade, and we're taking the old railroad logs and turning them 90 degrees from where they were and packing dirt on them so you could ride where it had been washed out. And crazy. That's when Nate found his new favorite beer. It was called Lobotomy Bock.
Oh, a fine classic.
Yeah, a classic. Yep, he found Lobotomy Bock, and then it was his favorite. You want to know why? 11.2% alcohol. Yeah,
they have another one only sold in Bakersfield called Dos Okies.
What's that one?
Well, instead of Dos Equis, it's Dos Okies. It's for the Oklahoma people in Bakersfield.
Yeah, got it. Let's
talk about Mexico to Canada.
Oh boy, how did that even?
Okay.
I guess it comes back to Crazy Nate again, because Crazy Nate, I think, drove for you. You developed Mexico to Canada. You did it with some guys, and I think and at this time I'm riding out in the hills and cutting trails with Crazy Nate. It's just been an incredible mentor for me, just teaching me about just life in general. Because Nate, all he wanted to do was go out and cut trails, and he wanted to show really good riders his trails because he was proud of them. But then he'd tell me about all these other places, and because they were going up to Idaho and working on trails, and they'd go to state rides, and I was so focused on racing and then working at the magazines, doing that kind of stuff. I didn't, and then I'm learning from these older guys. They're like, "Hey, Jimmy, I think they saw I was artistic." Yeah. And they're like, "You need to go look at this stuff." So I think Nate told me about Mexico to Canada, and Jerry wanted to get a little promotion. I was working at Cycle World magazine, and somehow those lattices of coincidence came together.
Absolutely. Well, the history of how it got started is I had two fireman friends that worked with your dad, and they retired, and they formed that, I think it was called FRA, Family Racing Association, or something like that. Anyway, but they had a goal to ride the length of California. So I helped them lay out a route from the Mexican border, and I got up as far as Mono Lake. And then I turned them over to some connections I had from the clubs in Northern California. to get up the rest of the way through California to the Oregon border. Well, the geography isn't right. All those giant rivers run east and west, and you're trying to ride north and south. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so it kind of fizzled. We had it all good from Mexico to Mono Lake. And then I took a friend of mine, Gil Roberts, who was a friend of Jesse Goldberg that you might have known.
Wow. Yeah, I rode with Jesse a few times.
Crazy old Jesse.
Legend,
Well,
yeah.
I took them on a ride out of Bishop, I think, a dual sport ride, gave them a roll chart, and this is really great. You need to come on our ride. And I said, where do you go? And they said, we go from Fernley, Nevada, to Denio, which is on the Nevada-Oregon border, kind of over in the corner over there.
My buddy San Felipe Bob knows where that is because his part of his femur's out there. Not his femur, his tib fib.
Anyway,
at least the rock that broke it's out there.
Well, Gil took me on that, I first got out an atlas, and said, where? And he pointed out, and I said, oh, man, that's the missing gap. He took me on that. And so one of the firemen and I went up there and made a roll chart from Fernley to Oregon. And then there was just a little gap down there in Nevada around Tonopah. And we spent one winter putting it together. And then the very next year, we took 11 guys and rode from Tecate to Denio. And I think 10 days.
And so that fireman was Dave Hutchins, correct?
Dave Hutchins and right. Johnny Sampson.
Sampson.
So Hutchins and I, we're kind of maniacs like Nate and a few others.
You guys are you're cut from a different piece of cloth.
Yes, yeah, we're not normal. So we said, damn, we rode from Mexico to Oregon, but geez, 4 more days we could be in Canada. So Hutchins and I spent the next 2 years thinking we just go straight through Oregon, straight through Washington.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. In Oregon, it's nice going up through the Cascades, but when you hit the eastern Washington, is nothing but wheat fields. So we ended up going just through the corner of Oregon and then into Idaho and Montana and up to the state line. So we did it. Oh, then we took in 1999. That was in 1996. We rode from Mexico to Oregon. 99, we rode from Mexico to Canada with, again, 7 or 8 guys. Ed Waldheim had a big car trailer that we outrigged so we could haul 10 motorcycles on it. And we'd get a driver and then we'd come back from that. So we did that 1 or 2 years. And then Crazy Nate calls me one day and says, hey, I got this friend that works for Cycle World, was it?
Yeah, I was at Cycle World. Yeah.
And he wants to do it, and put it in the magazine. And so I said, okay, no problem. And so I gave it to him. And then when him and a friend did it with Crazy Nate driving a motorhome, they did it a lot faster because they could just stop and sleep in the motorhome anywhere. We had to make the motel where we had reservations,
that stupid guy that did that. I remember that the guy that made the Mexico to Canada ride, that guy didn't trust the stupid guy that was going to ride it in half the amount of days. I kind of remember that. Okay, you didn't trust that guy because you thought I was going to take the track logs and sell them or something. Like that.
We had that happen the first year.
Yeah, I know you were so protective of the stuff, and you're like, you're a computer guy. Once you send me those files, like I can do anything I want with them. But you were like, okay, I want you to erase them every day, and it came and you gave me maps or something. I don't remember exactly what I got, but you wanted me to burn.
I thought you did it before GPS. I thought you did it from roll charts only.
Did we do it from roll charts? No, I think we might have had like Garmin 3s.
Oh,
or something.
Yes, you did because Joe later. You did. So anyway, Nate takes you guys on it and get this nice article. And if you go to my Mexican website, there's a link to this great article in Cycle World magazine of these 2 guys that did. Well, actually, it was 3 riders, and a truck driver, because I want now you to tell me what happened at Burns, Oregon.
Yeah. So the to make a long story short, but it was so I just found the interaction between us at the time because we had you knew who I was from when I was a kid. You knew my dad. And so your experience, you knew who I was as a racer and stuff. But you're like, what are you going to do at this time? I'm like, I want to do a story about the ride. And I just remember the hardest part was literally to build the trust with you because at that time, like, I mean, the amount of work that you guys put in to develop that, like you just told the story about it, to hand all that off to somebody that's going to write about it in the magazine. And then it's like, oh, then I'm going to go start a business and sell these GPS track logs or, put them on our website. It's crazy, but you trusted me with them. And we had an amazing time. But the problem was when I pitched it to my boss, who liked to have me in the office from like 9 to 5 and to just sit there and do nothing because I had to do like one page in the magazine a month. But now I'm going to do a feature story, so I could go maybe take a week off to go do a feature story because that's typically if you're going to do a feature story, you can take a week to go do it. So I got to ride from Mexico to Canada a week. What is it? What does it normally take people? 12 days?
13.
13? Okay. So I looked at it when he gave me the track logs. I looked at it and I knew a lot of it, the segments. I'd been on some of this stuff before from my racing in the past or just out goofing around on my XT600 or whatever I was out riding. And I'm like, I can do 2 of these days in one, which if you read the story, I explained that was a really stupid idea. Yeah, you can do it, but you're taking something that's actually fun, enjoyable. The sightseeing aspect goes out and you've got to hammer down. You got to keep moving. You can't have any problems. And my photographer at the time was a good, I would say a good average rider, but not to the level of my current partner that I decided to do it with was San Felipe Bob. He's always in the chat in the thing here. He's a good friend of mine. And I even wore San Felipe. Well, we kicked our photographer off he didn't tell me this. He was only supposed to like just be at the good photo spots. So he'd be in the morning, shoot and ride with us, go hop in with Nate, meet us at the end, ride with us. No, he wanted to ride the whole thing. But in order to keep our pace, which wasn't that fast, it just wore him out. And I had to kind of kibosh that. And then we got in a big fight. Unfortunately, that was probably the low point of that. I'm like, dude, you're the photographer. Do your job. I'm going to ride Mexico to Canada because that's my job. And being, typical blunt Jimmy, what an asshole. But even we kind of got that arrangement working better. And then I even wore Bob out. And then Bob just had a dumb little tip over, broke his fib, I think it was. And so we had to do a wilderness rescue, go out, find a log, tie down the log as a brace on his leg. I don't know what we piled up on the seat so his leg could hang straight down. And then we rode into Burns, Idaho, and did like the police, like you close an intersection so we could ride through. And we got, because there's only like, 2 stop signs or stop lights in town, rode him into the hospital. They sterilized it.
That was the part I loved, the pseudo funeral.
Yeah, it was bad. I killed Bob.
Bob, stopping at the intersections, blocking the cross traffic because you're going through on a red light.
I'd have to read that. I'd have to read that article again because I can't remember I can't remember what I wrote, but the stories probably get better with time. But yeah, we got him to the hospital. They stabilized it. We said, "What the hell are we going to do?" And I'm just focused on the gold, and I turn into just I don't care about anybody's feelings or anything. I got to get my job done, and so we got him a flight out of Boise. So we just threw him back in the motorhome, drove to Boise, put him on an airplane, came back. And then I called up, I just had a replacement rider, Jonah Street, from Dakar, riding Jonah Street from up in Washington. Hey, Jonah, hop on a motorcycle, ride down here and meet us, and we'll finish this ride. And we met him someplace at, there was a .com Idaho or something like that. It's just right across the highway there, right after you cross the main highway above Oregon-Idaho border. I forget what the name of it. $.com or .com Idaho or half.com. I don't remember.
Well, halfway.
halfway.
They did have, yes. I think
They
that
named
was,
their town something.com. It was weird. But anyways, we continued, finished the ride out. I got my story done. We did it in however many days I was allowed to take off work. It was a bender, but what an awesome experience, an awesome ride. And I didn't see a moose. I was kind of pissed.
yeah. I have two more.
Thank you, Jerry.
Jonah, after that, Jonah called me a few years later, and he was going down to Vegas or something, and he asked me to send him the tracks again because he wanted to ride the thing back north to south from his home in Washington down to Vegas.
He did that. He did that on his way down to the Dakar Rider Challenge Search.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah.
I was sitting there. I was thinking like you sent him roll charts, but no, it was GPS track log. Like,
it was GPS. Yeah.
People have told me before, it's like, oh, just send me a road book. I'll just do it backwards. I'm like, it doesn't work.
No, that doesn't work.
Usually when they ask that, I go, oh, well, you obviously don't know the first thing about road books, so no, you can't do a road book.
Now, let me tell you the second interaction with Jonah, or encounter. Were you aware that Turatech, is that their name? The guys that make all the BMW, they rode
the BDR routes
from north to south. The guy that owned Turatech in Washington, or now he's the Turatech distributor. He used to own a company I think called Psychoactive or something.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that is now Tom Myers. Tom Myers owns Psychoactive. He bought the importing for Touratech, and Tom made these really trick little pouches and stuff to carry maps and made some neat stuff.
And told me that Touratech does some big ride every year on a different continent, and he was wondering if they could have my tracks to do my ride. Told him the same thing, you got to erase them, you can't let these get out on the internet. And so time goes by, and all of a sudden I get a call from Tom. He's in Germany, and they BMW had were just in the process of introducing those big singles, the X models.
Right. Okay. I remember because I was doing some stuff with BMW at the time.
Yeah, and so they sent over two riders. One was a woman, and two cameramen to follow them, and another guy in a BMW car to follow them. So they go up to Washington, had a little wine thing with Tom, and then these guys are getting ready to take off on their trip. They're all in a gas station, gassing up these Beamers. A pickup truck goes by, sees them, makes a U-turn, comes back. These bikes aren't for sale yet. These were still pre-production or, not quite released. This pickup truck pulls up and says, what are you guys? And they don't speak much English at all. And they tell them they're from BMW and this is a brand new model. And this guy in a pickup truck says, yes, I know. I tested it in Germany. and they said, who are you? And, my name is Jonah Street. And then he said, well, what are you doing? And they said, we're going to ride to Mexico.
They had the HP2. So they had it was the twin cylinder bike. This is why I know this, because they had the X Cross.
Anyway, so they say they're riding to Mexico, and these guys, they just meet some strange American in a pickup truck, and Jonah says to him, "Are you riding Jerry Counts' course?" and they said, "You know him? 250 million people, and they bump into the one guy that knows what they're going to do."
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
The ways all that, and like I said, Jonah had ridden the HP2 prototype over here in the United States, and so he kind of recognized it when he was driving by. He's up in Yakima somewhere.
The gas station.
Yeah. And because that's where they were, like I said, they were on their way out to go where they were going to start. But I remember because they asked me about, should we do this? And I'm like, on the HP2? Yeah, you could, but you better have a really good rider. And then, like I said, they told me who was riding the bikes, and I'm like, probably you want to skip some of the sections. And that's about, that's about where
they ended up in Bishop, and which the course doesn't go through at all. And later, the guy that that guy that lives in, I think he lives in Washington, that does those rides across China, that was helping.
Helge Peterson.
Yes, him. Well, he came by my house and videoed me in an interview for the tape that Touratech finally put out, and I gave him some tracks to go down through Death Valley on some really bitchin' stuff, and they ended up not doing it. And I asked him, well, why didn't they follow the course I gave them? He says, because they're Germans.
Yeah, well, it's different. And if Helge Peterson taught me how to adventure ride, I was a racer and was doing stuff with BMW, and I would do presentations, and Helge would be there. I would be there as the racer, and Helge was there as the world tour traveling guy. And so we were very interested in what each other did. And that guy, he knew how to pack. He was a really good photographer, and he is same thing. Like, I learned so much about dual sport from you. I learned a ton about adventure riding from Helge, and just kind of some of the. It's amazing how all this stuff sort of intertwines, the different ways that you kind of run into people, and thank God I ran into Crazy Nate, who told me all he does is build birdhouses. When I'm out riding with my girlfriend, I run into the girlfriend at the time, now wife, run into these crazy guys with a chainsaw up in the mountains, and they're like, "Oh, we're just out here. I just build birdhouses." And I'm next thing you know, we're best buddies out. I guess we were building birdhouses. I think we were just cutting trails, but it was good times. You're allowed to do that back in the day. So
Nate helped me build a lot of trails.
Yeah, that guy just loves building trails. I mean, he retired from work early so that he could go up in the mountains and build trails, which is like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've run into people that have no idea how the trails get there. And so this is the one other thing I had in my kind of notes here, stuff, because someone on a show a couple weeks ago said, "Hey Jimmy, what do you feel about like Jerry Counts, putting on these dual sport rides?" Because I said something to the effect of, "I'm not a tour guide. It's not I don't like doing it. I like riding where I ride, and I'm kind of protective of it. And what do you feel about Jerry Counts doing the rides?" And my response is I think Jerry's very protective of the places he puts his rides on as well, where I feel that a lot of your rides go through stuff that anybody could ride on any day of the week if they could figure it out themselves.
Yes.
But there's other sections, the little gems that are in there, that I don't know if I would necessarily tell people about them, but your gems, because I've ridden most of them, are so remote, they need people to ride on them. And you have to make an extra effort to go and ride on those things. You can't just, you'd have to plan a weekend around it because they're so remote. And so I'm like, he knows what he's doing. He's not just a guy that's going to go to the most popular area and lay out a loop and then charge you for that. He's taking you to someplace special, and it takes a little bit of effort to get through, and that's what you're paying for when you sign up for one of his rides. And on a Jerry ride, you're told, like, you can stay on the highway and you can go from point A to point B on the highway. That's probably the way you should go. But here's all these other options that you might want to explore. Am I correct in explaining that?
Yes, no, very good explanation. You know the guys at ADV Pulse?
Yes, the magazine, yep.
Yeah, the magazine, yeah. They contacted me, and I think maybe they were going to go to Death Valley, or they'd been to Death Valley, and they told me what they did, and I said, "Well, did you ride this canyon? Did you ride that?" And they didn't even know what I was talking about. And they came, I think, to my 3-day ride that goes from Ridgecrest to Pahrump, then to Beatty, and then back to Ridgecrest. And they gave me a real nice write-up in the magazine saying, "This guy knows where the really fun stuff is."
And the funny thing about Death Valley is there's about 10 decent routes in Death Valley.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as it's so limited. I mean, anybody could look at a map and figure it out, but like, where's your skill level, and should you try this one? And then if you try it on your own, what are the repercussions if something goes wrong? But if you're on one of the rides, at least you know there's other guys out there. And then you just never know when there's this guy that's artistic, that's just out riding around all the time. Jerry knows this story. I was just out riding around. I just happened to be riding from here over to someplace else through Death Valley, and I found this guy that had he had a broken
Broken
clutch or something like that. And you're in the middle of nowhere. He was in the middle of nowhere. And
Gold.
Yeah, I know exactly where he was, but yeah, so I stopped and I don't know. I think I was on a BMW at the time. I don't remember what I was on, but I was on a big ass bike and he was on a KTM. And I just happened to have my little tool pack that happened to have KTM levers in it. And I'm like, "Hey, you okay?" Because he looked really frazzled and whatever. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it tipped over and I can't get out. We're trying to figure out how to get a truck in here." I'm like, "You need this?" Pulled out the lever. He goes, "Oh my God. Yeah." I think he had, I don't know if he did have a hole in his case and I had JB Weld. I don't know. He was just a typical unprepared guy. We fixed him all up and sent him on his way.
that guy and was telling me the story, and I can't believe it. You met a guy that's got a clutch lever for your bike, and I said, "What did he do?" Open up his raincoat, and he had watches and rings and clutch levers on this side, and then a little more discussion. I finally find out it's Jimmy Lewis.
Yeah, because I ran into a couple of my other friends. I had no idea they were out there. I'm just out riding. And it was kind of because I was probably going about, a good clip, one direction. They were going a good clip the other direction. I'm like, oh, I know those people. Spun around. and they slowed down because they're like, who would be stupid enough to be riding? Because I'm going to a kind of a gnarly area, a bad area. Who would be stupid enough to be riding Oh, it's Jimmy. So, yeah, good times. Maybe it was a KTM. I don't remember what I was riding at the time. Maybe one of my 1090s or something like that. So all those bikes are for sale, by the way. We'll get to that in Rooster Endo.
I told you I'd give you $3,000 for that 1090.
3?
Well, I mean.
Yeah, okay. What about the 390? I might take $3,000 for the 390. No, you don't want that one? I don't want that thing. Okay. So what events are you doing now? You said you have the Death Valley ride. The Mammoth ride?
3 in early January, February, March out of Ridgecrest. And then starting in September, Mammoth, Lone Pine. I do loops out of Mammoth, do loops out of Lone Pine, Cerro Gordo and all that stuff, and the Alabama Hills. And then I have one, was my first time last year. I have a point-to-point over in Arizona I call Route 66. It starts in Seligman, Arizona, which is a quintessential Route 66 town. It's wall-to-wall gift shops, and rides to Williams, but it's like 40 miles on the highway, but it's 200 miles the way I take them. And they spend the night in Williams, and then they ride back. And then I do another one clear into November in the city of Prescott, where I am right now, and it's loops out of Prescott.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm gonna. So, I got a couple questions here in the chats that people want to say. So, Hayward Mendenhall says hi. You know Hayward? Hayward Mendenhall. He had the Outback up in the mountains there.
Oh yeah, burnt down. Horrible. We did an invitational, and he cooked lunch for us there.
That's right, and we did some runs up there. And Roger Eddington, a former Nitro member, says dual sport rides in New England are called turkey runs.
Yeah, yes, they are.
Yeah, and because they don't have the. Are you going to get shot glasses?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. So they're so limited on public land and stuff like that. A lot of the old races they can't do anymore, and this is what you were talking about. They do dual sport rides now, and some of their dual sport rides are gnarly. They're harder than the enduros were, from what I've been told.
Yeah.
Kevin Kleinsmith says, I was at Answer Products from 79 to 84, and he remembers Jerry Counts and Countdown. Mark Daniels has Lona Azul tonight. Well, Mark, we're going to get into the Tinta Negra here in a few seconds as soon as the shot glasses arrive. And somebody's telling me I gave him a great route through the Mojave National Preserve, but they'd have none of it. So let's see. Jerry taught a lot of people how to use GPS. So they're thanking you for this. And then, so Eric wants to know, does Death Valley National Park make you get a permit for your ride?
That's a long story.
Okay, let's hold.
With many court appearances.
Yeah, and the good thing is that is a lot of what you're doing is you're fighting for the ability for people to exercise their rights to use their public land.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and whether it's a commercial activity or not, or how it's presented and all this stuff. This is another crazy idea that I have that because you've got, because you're putting on dual sport rides. I know you're a multi-billionaire because you have people that are listening to this have no idea how much money you can make putting on dual sport rides. That's why I did a riding school, because I wanted to become this. I was going for trillionaire. I got close, but that's why we have so many millions of people watching this show. When you're doing this stuff, it's like, is it for commercial activity, all this stuff? When I used to do ultra marathons running, one of the requirements on the really good runs was you had to do trail work on the trail that you were going to run on. So if you were going to do the Cascade Crest, you had to volunteer for X amount of hours. You had to put in like 8 hours of trail work in order to be able to do that event. And so one of the things I would, and especially when it's some of these district clubs that are just going into areas that someone told them about, that they, I know because I've been riding in some of these areas, and they just go up there and we're going to do a dual sport ride. Even the Big Bear Trail Riders with their long running historic Big Bear Trail Ride, I think that they should require, if you're going to get an entry to that thing, you should have to go in and put 8 hours of trail work in
a single day. Yeah,
it just put that in, do the work, and then your entry is either reduced, or just make the entry ridiculous. And then whatever the ridiculous extra amount for the entry is, if the guy doesn't want to work, you scoop that off the top, and then you pay guys, or you donate it to one of these trail work organizations to, do trail repair and do work on it. Because I promise you, if you go out and spend some time working on some trails, you will be much more respectful with the way you ride and how much you spin your tire. And you're going to be less likely to bring your other dipshit buddies that are going to bring all their dipshit buddies that don't care about this kind of stuff. I don't know, Jerry. I want to know what you think about what I just said.
Well, I agree with your philosophy totally, but getting it implemented is a bitch. I do get a lot of volunteers to go out with me, though. One of my last instances was, it was a bunch of logs down in Mammoth 2 years ago on my ride, and I was out scouting it and found them. I turned them into the Forest Service. They get a huge green sticker grant in Mammoth. I reported these logs blocking their trail. They don't like you going off the trail around the log, and back, tearing up a hillside or something. And I think almost a year went by and they did nothing about them. I finally went out there with my chainsaw and cut all the logs.
Yeah. Are you certified chainsaw operator by the Forest Service?
They don't know me.
yes, of course.
Do you have the certification? Yeah,
no.
I went and took that class, and I don't know if I'll ever. I can. Yeah, okay. But enough said. But yes,
Yeah.
No. That's why the logs don't get cut sometimes by certified Forest Service trail maintenance groups, and that's why it's really good that there's user groups that go out and actually get 30 to 40 miles of trails cleared in a day, where you would do 2 miles working with the certified group. But anyhow. A couple more.
Are you familiar with the Reno area dirt riders? RAD, R-A-D.
I've heard of them, but not super familiar.
They do huge trail maintenance up in a place called the Maze, which is up west of Reno in what's the name? Peavine Mountain area.
Yep.
And then they're even more active are the guys at that town west of there near Sierraville.
It's where it's Downeyville up your
Downeyville.
Yeah.
Those guys do a tremendous amount of work on trails.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mountain biking and stuff going on there. Stephen Walker says the problem today is most people don't know how to go long distance on their own. Lots of work goes into creating a couple days of great riding, and Jerry does a lot of work. Barry Harrison says, "Hey Jimmy, it's Canadian Barry. Nate, Dave Sweeney, and Dave Hutchins, we all met in Idaho and had a shitload of fun for years." Yeah, awesome. Brenda Hansen. Whoa, blast from the past. We used to ride Dual Dogs, Countdown, and Larry's Big Bear rides all over SoCal. I remember getting the super fancy ICO pacemakers. What a pain to load those. Let's see. And Ruben Chavez says, "Are you guys cool with the backcountry discovery routes?" I'm cool with the backcountry discovery routes. I think it's a great. It just the overall philosophy of that is well put together, and it's really similar to what Jerry's doing, except it's that there's a little bit of free in it. You can get a lot of information for free, enough to get you going. But if you want to do it right, you have to buy a map, and that map supports the nonprofit that keeps the Backcountry Discovery Foundation going. And I think they learned a lot from what you were doing, just putting together rides like Mexico to Canada, because I think that's what inspired Tom Myers.
Yeah, Tom actually started that, and then it's its own corporation now. It is a kind of a step up, much more conducive to adventure bikes than dual sport bikes.
Yes, for sure. Well, it depends on your skill level.
Well, okay, Jimmy, you and the whole McCoy family, Peter Postel and who's my artist out in Thousand Oaks,
Tony Megla. Oh, don't worry, we got it. His son's gonna get an ass whipping later on in this show.
You guys make us look ridiculous when you take these big adventure bikes out on the stuff we're struggling on with 500s. And but the BDR actually had it wasn't the BDR. I was up on. Are you familiar with Lolo Pass and the Lewis and Clark?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's
Road 500 that goes along there. I was up there. We were doing Mexico to Canada. We were going one way, and they were filming the BDR going the other way on that. And
yeah, and that's one of those. There's a couple roads through there that they're kind of the only really good ways to go.
Yeah,
through that Magruder Wilderness area, and that was on Tour of Idaho. So that was another thing that I did. Another guy, Martin Hackworth, is another guy who really invested a lot of time to string together and make the effort to connect some trails that went through. He had to get easements through private property, or establish the easements so that you could go through, because some people, they don't realize when they buy their dream house out in the wilderness, because they're super rich and they can buy a dream house in the wilderness. They don't realize that their road, the driveway, is a county road or a public thoroughfare, or it's a connection of a trail. And sometimes you have to fight to get this stuff back. So pretty good there. A couple more questions there. Brenda wants to know, Jerry, what are you riding these days?
I have a CRF 230 with a chainsaw rack on the back that I do all my trail work with. And then I have a very old, but I love that motor, an 07 KTM 525.
Wow. You want another one?
The old RFS motor.
Yeah, you want another one?
No,
I've got a cherry one for sale right now. Like, the tires have cracks in it and stuff, but the motor's tight.
I got 17,000 miles on it, and I just had who's the old guy in Reno that used to own Big Valley Honda? Thorwaldsen, Rich Thorwaldsen's son has a parts and repair store in Reno. He just rebuilt my KTM.
Nice. Yeah, some people love those bikes. They're definitely classics. So, well, Jerry, I think that was all I had. Anything else you want to tell everybody, or I really appreciate
something to look up back on the BDR. That's a very successful implementation of a plan that Russ Sanford. Do you know who he is?
I'm not familiar.
Started Corva, I believe.
Wow.
Way back in the day, Russ was good friends with our lobbyist and got legislation passed through for a thing called the statewide motorized trail system. Google that and look up, see what you can find.
What's funny is I remember looking at this a long time ago, and because I saw it in paper printed form at the time, and I remember saying, "Wow, there's routes here, there's routes there," and it was pretty interesting. So, well, okay. I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, and if anybody wants to get in touch with it, we know right now the website Mex2Can, that's MEX, the number 2 and CAN.com is up and working. And
Correct.
Then there's Dual Sport West, all one word, .com. Will be working as soon as Jerry figures out the internets. Because weren't you a rocket scientist?
Yes, for Rocketdyne.
Yeah. So it takes it.
I spent about 15 years designing the power system on the space station that's up there right now.
Okay, and it's still working. So you
Still
had some
working.
success there. So, well, hey, thanks a lot for coming in. I'm going to check one more time to see if we have any more questions popping up. It seems like something. Let's see. What's this? Kevin says, what about the smaller group CCBORI, the Central California Backcountry Off-Road Loop?
It's
1,100 miles here in California.
It's very adventure bike oriented.
Yeah.
If anybody's really interested, I have tracks for the statewide motorized trail system, which it's all dual sport oriented.
Yeah. And then that's the thing is there's a big differentiation between dual sport and adventure. I recognize that. I'm lucky that from all my riding, working on my riding ability, that I can ride a dual sport bike where most people could only ride I can ride an adventure bike where most people can ride a dual sport bike. And the problem is people watch too many videos. But I'll tell you what, and you'll laugh at this. We can all watch Paul Torres ride his Yamaha 10RA 700. And by the way, Yamaha, a big sponsor of the show.
That guy has had to sell more of those T7s than anybody on the face of the planet.
Okay, but this is where I'm confused. So Yamaha, sponsor of the show, makes the awesome 10RA 700, which is an incredible adventure bike. So Jerry talks about riding his Honda 230. People fall in love with certain bikes for certain reasons. I've fallen in love with the 10RA 700. I watch Paul Torres videos, and I go, there's no way. No, I said, There's no way in hell I'm even going to think about doing this. And we had Cody Webb on the show, and I'm like, hey, you going to do some Paul Torres stuff? And he's like, Jimmy, I rode that bike. No. So there, every once in a while, there's you've got to know your size, and so when people say adventure bike and dual sport, they're two different types of rides for two different types of machinery. And Jerry knows this because he gets people that show up and they puff up and they're going to ride their adventure bike on his dual sport ride, and he looks at him and he goes, "That's a really bad idea for like this 10% of the time. The rest of it would be fine, but there's that 10% where you're making a very bad decision." Correct?
Yes, before I got my 525, I herniated my disc in I don't know, way back there in 05 or so. Couldn't kickstart my XR 600. I could start my 400, but I couldn't start my 600. So I ended up buying a Husky TE 610, which is like the very smallest, what I would call adventure bike. And
Is that an electric start?
Pardon?
It had electric start.
Yeah, electric start, smooth as silk. It makes that KTM 640 look like, well, I think they ended up selling them all to Sherwin-Williams for paint shakers. But anyway, that bike.
Oh, we agree. We agree on this. we totally agree on that. I've never used that analogy before, and as a journalist, I'm really bummed out that I didn't do it. I mean, I like to stick a knife in every once in a while, but that was a good one, Jerry. It's not a sponsor of this show.
When I got that 610, I started putting on adventure bike loops, which I still have a few. I have them on my Mammoth ride, and I have them on my Topaz ride. And what I found the big difference was when I laid out a course for adventure bikes with my TE 600, they were far more scenic, and you enjoyed the scenery more, even though you're doing 50 miles an hour instead of 30 miles an hour. It's a smooth road that you can see in front of you, and you have the time to look around because you know there's no rocks in the time it's going to take you to do that. And I found them much more scenic to do adventure loops with the bigger bike.
And in just so many words right there, you just said, I'm getting old and I want to find motorcycling that fits my age.
That is true. I don't have many years left on the single track.
Yeah. So, hey, well, I really, really do appreciate you coming on the show. It's been educational for me. I hope a lot of people learned about like the history of dual sport riding and where you can go and some things you can do. I hope it inspires some younger guys to get into it and explore, whether you're doing a turkey run or whether you're coming out here and doing a dual sport ride, or you're maybe thinking about an adventure bike too. I mean, I don't know why anybody would want to ride one of those, but if you do, get a Tenere. So thanks, Jerry, and hopefully we'll see you out on the trail. I do really appreciate your time.
Great time. Great dinner we had in Beatty this year.
Yeah, so I'm just driving around out in Nevada. Me and my wife have an XR 150 and a TTR 125 on the bumper racks of my motorhome because we're out riding around. I mean, I don't know why we would do that, but because like I'm better than riding those little bikes, but we're out riding those little bikes and having a great time. And we come through Beatty and there's all these dual sport bikes, and we're at the VFW and we go there for a burger, and all these dual sport bikes are pulling in, and sure enough, they're on one of Jerry's rides. And I said, "Are you on one of the He's like, yeah, I'm on Jerry Count's ride. Where is he?" I got to go find this guy. I haven't seen him for a little while because your email changed, so I didn't have that. And your flip phone, I texted you a lot on your flip phone, and your flip phone doesn't do very good. Yeah, you're afraid of the. Hey, don't worry. That old people minutes stuff that it's not a thing anymore. They don't have. You can actually leave your phone on, and they don't charge you to have it on. I'm still trying to get this through Crazy Nate's thick skull, but he's afraid of the old people minute charges. So okay, Jerry. Well, we'll see you out in the trail, and cheers, and keep up the good work. Okay, everybody, that was Jerry Counts, a legend. I'd say one of the godfathers of dual sport, for sure, and. I literally stoked to have met him, stoked to have been able to do some of his rides. He inspired me. I mean, it was like I
don't know, completely.
It satisfied my sense of adventure multiple times, and I didn't. In the first couple times, I didn't even know it, and then when I remember when I heard about that Mexico to Canada, like Nate's telling me about this, I'm like, I got to do that. I don't do that. Yeah, you should do it.
No, it sounds fantastic. I would love to do it.
It's one of those. It's like doing the Baja 1000, or it's like doing the Nora Mexico 1000. Mm-hmm. I don't like to promote anything that I work for, but or actually, you should do the Nora Mexican 500. It's a way to get into doing some rally racing. We actually have a GPS class for people that want to just get their I can't read. You want to get their feet wet, but there's. If you take the time to go look around, there's plenty of cool things to do. I hear people say, "Oh, there's no place to ride. There's all this." You might have to travel a little bit. You might have to have a different bike than what you currently have. But there's plenty of stuff to do.
There's too many motorcycles that are highly capable and available from any dealer to have that excuse anymore. That come with a license plate.
Yeah.
There's just too many really awesome bikes that come fully street legal off the lot that you can go have a ton of fun and explore and get lost.
There was no such thing as a dual sport bike when these guys started doing their dual sport rides. It was just they got limited. Their races were limited to areas that they couldn't go outside these areas. And like, we want to have rides that go outside these areas. So they invented a riding that did it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can't not only ride there, you need a license plate to ride there now. So they went around the hoops. We got license plates now. We're going to ride here. And so they're just, if you just roll over, they're going to close everything down.
Of course.
And so this is pretty cool. I'm glad I lived through the time that I lived through, and I got to do all this kind of stuff. A couple of other sponsors on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. They're running up through the screen behind us. If you get a chance to watch that, of course, there's Bulletproof Designs, Fasst Company, Flex handlebars. I love Flex handlebars on every single one of my bikes. We have Scott Sports, Climb Gear. And I always say, what Climb Gear did you wear today, Jimmy?
Vented.
None today. I went and spoke at a county commissioners meeting to further our off-road park out here.
Okay.
So I didn't wear Climb Gear there. I was underneath my truck because I found out my Dodge has a plastic transmission skid pan. Was not wearing Climb Gear when I was an automatic transmission repairman today. I didn't wear it into Walmart when I bought my cat food.
So you definitely could have done that.
It's pajamas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no Climb Gear, but if you're interested in getting some Climb Gear, let me know. I may be able to help you out with a discount code. And this is the part of the show, I should ask Jerry if he wanted to stay. I see he's still in the meeting, if he wants to stay on for Rooster Endo. You can Jerry, just shake your head up and down if you want to comment on Rooster Endo. This is a segment where people, they send in pictures of their bike, and they ask us whether their bike roosts or endos. So we have a few things, and the good thing is it's brought to you by Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co, and Taco Mike is gracious enough to give out a $100 gift certificate just because we picked the winner. And the winner is not the bike that roosts, and it's not the bike that endos. It's the bike that brings us the most happiness in discussion.
I feel like we should definitely include the guy that's got probably
Jerry, you stay on there. I can bring you right back into this. I can bring you right back into this show. We're gonna move into our Rooster Endo segment because we have a few
when
bikes.
you
I have a couple
that many
questions
miles on a motorcycle. You definitely
you got
be
got some stuff. So let me go into my Rooster Endo screen here. Okay, this bike is brought to you by one. And this name will sound a little familiar, especially to Jerry. One Jared Megala. Jared Megala. So I'm going to... Okay, so you're unmuted again, right, Jerry? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, good. He's in there. And so the rules for this game is you need to send us a picture of your motorcycle. And then you need to tell us a little bit about your motorcycle. And so Jarrett, because he heard that you could make $100, sent us a picture of a motorcycle with no info, none.
Oh man!
So
come on,
I
Jimmy.
don't even this. Okay, I'm just. John, would you like to describe this bike?
I love that thing. I love everything about it.
Okay, that bike is a red motorcycle with number 122 on it. I don't know anything else about it.
Yeah, fine.
No info, but
I'm sure you rode that bike at some point.
If it's a 2007 when they first came out with that aluminum frame, I rode it, and we actually picked it as like bike of the year at Dirt Rider. So blame me.
Technically, 02 is when that.
Oh, was that 02? Wait, is it 02? 97? No, 97.
Well, 97.
Oh, 97 is when it came
one.
out, and I got to get my
They went
dates.
through 3 generations of
To get there.
To get to there.
Okay, so Jarrett, if you had given us some information about this bike, I wouldn't sound as stupid as I sound right now.
I'd also voted for it.
Oh, here, why don't you pour me one of this? It'll help. We'll get into the Tinta Negre as we. That's really good. That's hard to find too. I'm going to see if I can get Johnny Campbell to get me a bottle. He's down there on the Desert Assassins Baja Beach Bash.
Oh, the Baja Beach Bash?
Yeah, he's
that's
down
cool.
there. And by the way, if you want to donate to a good cause, find some of these riders that are out there doing the Baja Beach Bash, and they're all trying to raise money for the orphanage down there, the Santa Marta Orphanage, which is a really good cause. That place is It's one of the nicest places in the peninsula. It'd be really suck to have to be an orphan and go there. But anyways, back to Jared's bike, which so I sent him an email back and said, Jared, you sent me a picture of your bike, but you didn't follow the rules. And he said, I am aware and cannot wait to tune in to hear more about this awesome piece of machinery. So this is a red motorcycle with number 122 and an awesome piece of machinery.
Man. I know it's against the rules to speculate, so I have no idea what that thing is, but it sure is cool looking.
2000, you're saying 2002, 2003 Honda CRF or Honda CR 250R.
I believe so.
Is that the electronic power valve?
They did have them, yes.
That's horrible.
The RC valve?
Yeah, RC valve. Horrible. He's got the Woody Woodpecker graphics.
It's
pretty,
a winner.
Pretty cool.
It's a winner. I mean, it's the Honda's version of the Cowie Spitfire of the era. You know, just classic.
Oh, you think it's a Roost?
Oh, I love it.
I don't even know what it is.
I absolutely love it.
I'm looking at this thing and it just looks like, I don't know. I want people to follow rules. A couple other things. The photo was taken in the garage. So I'm going to say that your water heater looks like it's not properly strapped down per California regulations. And I don't know if that wiring is the spec on the thing.
He didn't give us any information on the water heater either. So
yeah, I know.
You can't technically speculate about that.
And he's got a stand back here with a lot of cool stickers. He didn't tell us about those stickers. It looks like he's got
the Pro Honda sticker on the front. Come on, Jimmy. This thing's awesome.
Yeah, he's got a Pirelli sticker, which is good on the bike in the back there. Jarrett races those long distance races out here in the desert, but that's a really nice chariot I know nothing about. So I'm going to say endo for all the reasons mentioned above. Yeah. Jerry, do you have any comments on that particular bike?
Well, unfortunately, I'm a two-stroke devotee. I've only owned, four-stroke. Excuse me. I've only had two strokes in my whole life.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you can see in the pictures, I started on a Triumph 500.
Oh, so even back before four strokes were four strokes, you were riding four strokes.
Yes.
And it's funny because your good buddy Crazy Nate was always a two-stroke guy.
Oh yes, he was.
Actually, he started on a Honda Hawk or something like that. He was actually Nate. I take that back. Nate was, if it's free, it's for me. It was like whatever Super Hunky would give him, whatever bike he could get his hands on.
That's true. He did have a mentor in Super Hunky.
Yeah. So okay, so that's our first bike, and then our next bike is let's turn this one on. So here's our next bike. This is, I got to go to my notes here. This is Unruly, and he's never given me his real name. So he says, you want to read this, John?
No, not particularly.
Not really?
But...
Okay, I'll keep doing it. Fan of the podcast, would like to submit my ride for Rooster and Endo to subsidize my Taco Moto bill.
I like the idea.
Yeah, that's a good start. A bike is a 25 XC 300 XCW in the wild near Chilliwack, British Columbia. Missing rear fender due to a failed splatter attempt on a vertical rock face. So we'll give you some bonus points for that, I guess. This is a beautiful location. This bike is in a nice place that makes me want to go ride there. I appreciate this, but I don't know if you know, but I have a fetish with people that turn the steering away from the camera. Have you ever seen that done in a professional magazine?
I don't think so.
No, you
gotta know what the number plate looks like.
It's disrespectful
for no particular reason.
You know when people don't look you in the eyes during conversation, kind of like what I do all the time.
Looking at the ground.
Yeah, it's like a sketchy dog. Well, this is what this photo does to me. So right away, I'm a little thing. The engine has the TSP trimmings, high compression head, power valve cover, and ERM. Has a V-Force 4X reeds. He removed the oil tank and pump because he likes mixing gas, baby.
Seems like a lot of money for a lot of extra effort.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you there. I like pouring the oil in there, and then as long as my light works, I don't have to worry about it.
No high comp head, he might not have blown it over backwards and lost the fender too. So.
Oh, his modifications
We're compounding here.
helped his fender work out. Suspension. Only springs for my generous heft. It's the best stock suspension I have ever ridden. And if I'm kind of curious what his generous heft is and what that means as far as because when you go to those big springs, you should do something internally to match it. Correct, Big John?
You would like to, but springs are like $230 to throw springs. Actually, does that bike have air forks on it? I don't think so.
No, it probably has the new cartridge ones, which is better.
Yeah, but even then, you're like $250 for springs. You can slap them in the garage, and that is like 75-80% better than where it was.
Okay.
Not saying it's ideal to skip valving and stuff, but you can definitely go a long ways with springs as a thicken.
Yeah, it is a good way to fix it. It makes it work better. I mean, for sure, if you're a big guy, you want to get some big springs. Molecule skid plate, Enduro flag handguards. They're probably Molecule because it's got a plus in there. Enduro hog case guards, BPD fork lug, throttle body guards, Emperor Racing rad guards. Have always used Bud's product in the past, but I'm supporting it. Wait, did we put his bike in before? Now I feel like I'm reading something that I've read before.
I have no idea, but you could throw that thing down a mountain and probably be all right.
You know what? I think I put... Actually, I know we've had this bike on the show before, and then he told me that we didn't put it on the show because he probably wasn't watching, or his Canadian internet connection didn't go through the ground down to where his cave is. He says, and this is why I remember, he says, you will say the YZ is a better bike. Of course I will, because Yamaha's a sponsor of this show, and all we talk about is how awesome Yamahas are. I'm glad that you brought that up to allow me to do another sponsor plug. And I'd like to promote Bulletproof Designs, which you say you've used his products in the past, but you're supporting a Canadian company, so this is why I remember it. Jimmy, big fan of the show, watch Rooster every week, but was never interested in sending in a pic. But I made my wife watch your show with me to educate her. And she convinced me to send in the bike after our past 4th of July trip. So you got me to put your bike on the show twice. Good on you.
Well, I don't know if he sent it in post 4th of July. It's only the 15.
I don't know. Maybe he did send it in and I did it on a show. I explained this on another show. I swear, after the show, it's like you're the Men in Black guy and you shoot me with that thing and I forget everything. So, Jerry, what do you think about this bike?
That's the KTM 300?
Yeah.
XCD. Over here in Prescott, Arizona, those are really popular. This one looks a little ratty, though.
For a 25, it looks like Nate rode it.
Well put.
Yeah. And he likes low seat height, so he couldn't touch the ground. He fell over like 10 times. This bike has been disrespected. I have a 2019 that looks better than this thing. This is another endo. It's another endo.
Yeah.
There's no way.
No way what?
That bike doesn't look that bad.
Oh, you want me to zoom in?
Yeah, that's good. Can we get a zoom in on that?
Okay, let's zoom in.
Hold on. We're talking. I'm currently sitting here next to the king of white marks and plastics and no stickers and.
Well, it doesn't have a rear fender. I don't know. It actually does look pretty good, but
it's pretty nice.
I can't even look at it because it's got the handlebars turned away. But he does have climb. Okay, he's got climb goggles. So that's a sponsor plug. Good on you for that. Okay, you made me change my bike. This bike roosts a little bit.
Allegedly, Jimmy, we have a late entry coming in.
Oh, a late. Well, I can't process this kind of stuff unless you can hold the fort down and ramble on for 10 minutes or so. So the next one is, I got this one. Let's turn this one on. There's a bike. Here we go. This is Dennis Green's bike. Dennis Green has a 2024 KTM 500 EXCF. He's got a Vortex ECU, Pro Moto billet exhaust cap, spark arrestor installed, Taco Moto tidy tail dual sport kit, replaces the godly stock stuff. IMS 3.5 gallon tank, Scott stabilizer, double take mirror, gut seat. That's the wrong company. Seat Concepts, sponsor of the show.
Yeah. Of
so
course,
instantly that we have to endo this bike, right? It's just like DQ'd. I should just turn it off.
Man, we got to keep going.
Okay, I'm just kidding. No, we like our sponsors. AHM suspension, Moto Mining Baja Designs headlight, Molecule skid plate, SXS handguards, a Garmin GPS. I don't know why you should smart mount a typewriter on your handlebars. Michelin Moose, Dunlop tires, 739 rear, AT82 front, DRD ERT O-ring chain. I know the stock suspension is good, but AHM has even better settings and replaces the stock plastic parts with a bladder kit and built aluminum parts for reliability, and he gives me the permission to flame away. So, Dennis, I always like to check and see if people are actually on the are actually in the chat to defend their bike. I'm gonna go look at the chat real quick here and see where we've got going on here. Unruly. It says I'm away from the camera, but into the hill. Sorry. Well, he's.
This is another Canadian?
That's the Unruly. That's the guy. Same bike as last week. I guess he didn't sell it. I get confused. Like I said, you guys play me all the time, and let's see. I wish Jerry would post a pic of his bike in the wild. Well, we have pictures of him racing on that thing.
It's Triumph 500 from probably at least 5 years ago.
Yeah, and Jeremy Franklin says thanks Moto, because Jeremy with his awesome T7 with, dude, like 11-gallon tanks. Oh. He had the Safari tanks.
How big is the one on yours? 5?
5.5. Yeah.
What's stock? 3? 3.5?
3.5. And he had this. It's 4. He had these ones that go down low like a rally bike. They were sweet. And then Ruben says you rock, Jerry. So. And then I think there's some other stuff here. Doug Derby says, I got to listen to the beginning of the show, and I'll catch up on the dual sport stuff. Okay. And Kevin wants to know, where do I send a picture? You send it to Jimmy at Dirt Bike Test, and then it might end up on the show. It might end up on the show twice or 3 times. And Ruben says, cycle porn gone wrong. And then if you send a picture to our Instagram account, good luck on me ever looking at that or wherever you send it to.
Where did our 450 go?
Let's get back to that. There's our bike. It's
tasty.
It's Moto'd out already. If he gets $100 from Moto, he's going to buy a sticker because he looks like he needs a graphics kit at this point in the game.
Yeah, that bike is tasteful. It's about all the right stuff that one should do to one.
I like that it's outside of his garage. That's pretty big. I'm appreciative that I'm trying to get the photo to where it is. Here we go. I think I can work on it here. I like that he took a picture. It looks like someplace I'd like to ride. There's mountains around and a nice little gravel road. It doesn't look like it's been smashed too much. He doesn't have very many sponsors, though.
Meh.
Yeah. But
sounds like a guy that probably needs a gift card. But
did he say double take mirror?
He did say double take mirror.
That's good. Double take mirror. He needs to get the new double take mirror, because I'm not going to kid you. The new double take mirrors are incredible. I have a discount code if you want to get one of those too. So new double take mirrors have a much better gripping surface and pretty good. And San Felipe Bob wants to know, did we follow Jerry's route when you broke my leg? I'm sorry I brought up that you mean after you broke your leg? It was the only way out. I mean, do you think we knew where we were when you broke your leg? We skipped like about 40 miles because we ended up just getting on. We got to the highway as quick as possible, and because
took a while to get out of the bush. Huh?
Broken legs, you got to be careful of, because there could be some. It wasn't compound or anything like that, but we didn't want to make it any worse. So Bob, we did not follow Jerry's route. So this bike, this Rooster Endo, I'm going to say, Jerry, what do you say?
I kind of like it. I have a little question though for you. How many riders on a 500 need to do a bunch of engine performance?
Really good question, Jerry. I'm glad you asked when one of the things I'm famous for saying on the show when people call up and they say, "Hey, I've got a KTM 500 and it's all corked up and all this stuff like that," and they go, "What's the best way to give it more power?" And I say, you turn the throttle farther, and it seems to piss people off because they realize that they're not turning the throttle farther. And I'm like, they spend a lot of time developing that bike to do all kinds of stuff. First of all, give you a really high performance platform that is capable of being modified. But at the same time, it needs to meet sound regulations and emissions regulations, and it has to do this and that and all the other. It's like, in the minute you start monkeying with that stuff, it gets very difficult to make it good. This guy, our Rooster endo bike, when he starts saying I have the ECU and I have the end cap, and he's done all of the things. It's the guy says, I bought the ECU and now the bike doesn't run, or I put the pipe on it and the bike doesn't run, and because it's all part of a system. So I think I'm gonna give him a roost. He hasn't turned his front fender away from me, disrespecting me with his photo. It's outside of his garage. That's good. It seems like a good complete thing of mods. But Jerry, before you,
I think it's well put together.
Before you lobby your thing, I would just say don't tell anybody. But I would go. If this guy enters one of my dual sport rides, I think this bike would roost. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with Bruce. Back to your comment on turn the throttle further, I always ask them, how long can you hold the throttle wide open?
You're supposed to hold it wide open until you reach peak power, and then you shift.
I'm not coming out of a corner. Cross country, how often are you wide open throttle on a 500?
Oh, you're not that much, but some people like the torque of the 500. That's why they make so, like John was saying earlier in the show. You can go to the dealership and you can get a bike to do almost anything you want. And if I were really more interested in going wide open, I would not buy an EXC. I would buy one of the other ones and figure out how to. Yeah, because you're never going to go wide open on a Tenere. But so much power.
If you want a lot of power.
It's really dangerous. Yeah, there's plenty of videos of guys wiping out on Teneres because
they're sneaky.
Okay, so we're gonna call this one a roost.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Okay, I think you like it too. Okay, so we've got Dennis. Oh, we got one more. We've got one more here. This bike. This is Lee Graham's bike, and let me get to the documents here. Lee Graham. He's also from Canada. I know this guy. He says, "Hi, Jimmy. I have 2 hours of runtime on my 2024 KX450X. Waiting on springs for my weight. That's smart. A Chirby skid plate, radiator guards, and wraparound hand guards. All on order. Beyond that, not focusing on crap for the bike. Instead, on the crappy rider. Working on skills so I can do better on the next rally." So Lee is a Nora Mexican 1000 finisher. So good for him for sure. He decided he wanted to get a better bike. I'm going to tell Lee he needs to get a better phone that can take a better picture. Because good God, if that isn't the most out of focus, like the lighting is pretty horrible. It's in the shadows. You need to fill flash that thing a little bit there, Lee.
I do like that he took the time to put it crooked in the trail.
Well, he just pulled it. He drug it out of the cave, and that's where it ended up.
I'm just saying he tried a little bit. I mean,
right? He tried. Yeah,
it's picture, but he tried for the setup.
He tried for the setup. Let's see. Beyond that, not focusing on crap for the bike. So you need to focusing on your photo so we can analyze your bike a little bit better, I think. So that's the problem with when you work at a magazine and you do all this stuff. He says he can do better on the next rally. He says, have a tequila for me, A. We just did. Do we finish that? Let's work on that project. That stuff's, how is that?
That is fantastic.
That is some fantastic tequila.
That is.
If anybody wants to know what I want for Christmas next year, Tinta Negro. And if any of you sent me what I got from Amazon today, you need to fess up because I have no idea who sent me what I got on Amazon, but I sure as hell didn't order it. So, and I don't have an Amazon wish list like all my favorite friends on OnlyFans, but I don't know where you got the idea to send me what you sent me. So fess up to it. Cheers, John.
Right there.
Good job. You're literally the next best co-host next to that Logan kid. What about Lee's bike? Back to the show.
God, that is good.
the bike or the tequila?
Oh yeah, the Kawasaki pretty cool too.
Kawasaki, not a sponsor of the show, so Endo.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute. Didn't you just less than a month ago? Didn't you query me about like, hey, should I get a?
Oh, I was gonna buy one.
You were gonna buy one.
I technically bought one the week before I broke my femur.
Oh.
So 4 months ago, I bought one. Went in the next day, and they had a stop sale on them because of like a primary gear.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was like a primary drive gear in the right side case half that was
on certain model.
It wasn't a recall. They just had a stop sale on them.
Right.
And I couldn't buy one, and then I ended up breaking my leg the next weekend.
Well, that's because you were thinking about buying a Kawasaki and not a Yamaha. Yeah, if you would
have just bought another tenner.
Yeah. Jerry, what do you think about the Kawasaki?
I'd give him a roost when his parts order comes in.
Oh, well, you should have said, I don't really like to, you old guys, sometimes you miss out at this point. You should have said, if that guy got a dual sport kit for that and he came down and did one of my rides, actually, Lee would love doing one of your rides. I'm not kidding. Then I would say Roos.
He's welcome.
Okay. So
I think that bike is a solid roost in about 6 weeks.
A solid roost in 6 weeks.
I think if he
with the parts on it.
Gets it together, gets it put together, gets a couple scratches on it. Yeah, I have a hard time giving a roost to a bike fresh off the showroom floor.
I couldn't tell how fresh it was because it was a little bit blurry. It actually looked like the side covers were scratched up and stuff. And so I don't know if it was a new bike or used. Or I don't
know. If he ordered a skid plate for it, that means it's brand new to him.
Oh, okay.
That's the first thing you do, right?
You go to Bulletproof Designs, and you get the protection parts there. And then with the skid plate, I think you can go to Chirby's. We'll say a Chirby's.
I like the Chirby's.
Yeah, the Chirby's bolt right on. Yeah.
They are really cool.
So if you have questions about bikes, if you want to chime into the Rooster Endo, and it says, let's see, Lee is in the chat. Mark Daniel says, Dennis Green, it's a roost. Bob is no help at all. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Strangler says, hey, Jimmy, I usually listen to the streams while at work. I guess there's something better than work, and this might be it.
Oh, heck yeah. And this will be a really good one. Jerry, your conversations and stories about early dual sporting, that's such, it's just cool roots.
Nuggets.
Because I was late in the years, but I started dual sporting at like 19 years old.
I met you. Were you on a KLR when I met you?
I was on a KLR.
Yeah, you were on a KLR. Yeah. That's a real dual sport bike, by the way, Jerry.
That is a dual sport. That is a proper dual sport.
Yeah, a dual sport. Do you allow KLRs on your ride, or are those guys, they don't have any money, so they can't pay for them?
Yeah.
Are you talking about a 250?
No, 650.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Wait, you've had to rescue people on those before because their milk crates fell off?
Honestly, when I was a KLR guy, I wouldn't have been able to afford his $1 rides.
Yeah. When people come to me all the time, they go, Jimmy, I want to get an adventure bike. What should I get? And they're like thinking BMW, Ducati, Triumph, all this stuff. I'm like, KLR 650.
Yep.
I mean, now I would say Yamaha Tenere, and not because Yamaha sponsors this show. I would say because the Tenere is if the KLR wasn't 75 years old, I would say it's still a good bike, but the Tenere is like the new version.
And I think the Tenere is only maybe $1,500 more.
Yeah, it's not that much more. Yeah, and you're getting way more bike.
A bike that's capable.
Those Teneres are very good. Very good.
Yeah, they're for
my bad
bikes.
Experience with the KLR was in the rain back behind Cerro Gordo, coming up from the backside, and the first experience with a real dual sport bike on one of my rides, and the kickstand spring was weak, and the kickstand kept flopping down, turning off the engine. And I had
on the KLR.
Yeah, KLR. Yeah, and I had to go through that thing and change all the wiring, get rid of the damn clutch switch, the kickstand switch.
Yeah, that's a super common problem with a lot of dual sport bikes, especially guys of John's size, their ankles drop down. Like he'll drop his heels. And on a dual sport bike like a DRZ 400, KLRs for sure, even some of our twin cylinder bikes, you drop your heels down and you start getting the kickstand to come down. That sensor switch comes off and the bike's cut out. And people are like, "Why does my bike cut out?" And they're looking at their jetting or their fuel injection. They're looking at their electronics. It's like because your foot's hitting the kickstand.
And especially those dual sport bikes, they don't tuck the kickstand up like a KTM or a more modern enduro bike. They kick them up, they're up kind of buried under the side plate.
Yeah.
Where the dual sports are kind of, almost like the old KDXs that were in line with the swing arm or just,
Well, they want to make it,
higher.
they want to make it easy for you to put the kickstand down. That's actually, it's like seat height's an important thing, getting the kickstand up and down. These are important sales features that you probably don't think about as an experienced rider, but like a novice rider, if they can't figure out, if they have to put their foot too far back to activate a kickstand, they're going to fall over and they're never going to buy a bike. Yeah. So, the things learn, hopefully. Let's see. I think that there's a grainy mitigation strategies, and I think that's our Lee Graham. He's in there in the chat lobbying to get his thing. And somebody named Just Jay said, I thought I wanted a Tenere until I had to help a guy pick one up out of a ditch.
Yeah, go pick up a GSA 1200.
Yeah, you know what you should do? Not ride with people that you have to pick up their bike out of a ditch. Then you would still want a Tenere. Mm-hmm. You would be like me, and you just ride around by yourself all the time.
Jimmy, I've owned 2 Teneres, and I'll probably own another one before long.
Oh yeah, you have had 2 Teneres. I know where they are. Yeah. You're good at buying them and selling them to our friends.
Yeah.
Okay. Now where we have to come. This is the point in the show where we have to go back and pick the bike that we liked best for Rooster Endo. So here's Lee Graham's bike. Here's Unruly's bike, which I'm disqualifying because I think we voted on it before. But if you really want it to win, we can do that. Dennis Green has a very nice KTM 500, and some lazy ass kid named Jared Megala, who cannot figure out why, if his sponsorships proposals are anything like the information he sent on this bike, I can see why you're not riding for a great team like JCR Honda, where then you get factory bikes. So
that's why I still ride a Honda. Still dreaming.
Still dreaming? I know some guys. We can get your bike hooked up. Okay, so Jerry, what's your pick? Which one do you like the best?
The 500.
The 500. So we're going with Dennis Green's bike. This one right here. Okay, Big John?
Yeah.
Man, I told you earlier, I like them handguards. I'm not sure.
Not those handguards, because there's no handguards in that one. Although we wouldn't even know. Because
500. Those things right there.
You know what, Jared? Here's the thing. Is people listen to this as a podcast, and so we actually have to describe these bikes. I can't even describe this bike.
Not that one. We've given up on that one.
So you like the 500 for those handguards?
I like a lot of things. It's got a big, giant Baja Designs headlight on.
Yeah, like the headlight. Yep.
Like I said, it's tasteful. He didn't go outrageous with things that obviously, them KTM guys, they get pretty wild with the orange stuff.
Right.
So that bike's nice. It's tasteful. Yeah. It's got, granted, it's got all the right stuff on it.
And San Felipe Bob, because he pays attention to it, he likes the Beta. Bob used to be a Yamaha guy. He was a Blue Crew guy like me. He was all blue.
WR guy forever.
And then I talked him into buying a Beta. So he can blame me. Now he's all Beta all the time. It's like, well, Bob, you need to go out and get Beta to sponsor this show too, so I can say good things about them. But until then,
it's the Beta Red.
And then our winner from last week says Jeremy Franklin says Green's KTM 500. So the KTM 500 is the winner. Congratulations, Dennis Green. You have won Dirt Bike Test Tech Talk Taco Tuesday Rooster Endo, brought to you by Taco Moto. So I will be sending you an email, but it's better you send me an email to remind me, because I forget everything I say in the show. And if Unruly tries to send me an email to say that he thought he won, I will remember this. So okay, we got a couple questions that we never got to right from the beginning of the show. I think we can. You got time to hit these?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Jerry, feel free to dive in if you. So there was a guy, and he had he wants to do Nora
Oh, the guy with all the questions.
And so he wants to know whether he should do digital or paper as far as road books. And when we talk about kind of the future, it's like, would you want to do a paper roll chart or do you want to do GPS? And it's the future is digital, and so I would go say digital, and I would say the problem is there's not a standard for the digital road books. And as a promoter, this is a problem because some of the systems are, we'll call them a little bit too open. So it would, if you knew what you were doing, you could cheat, and we don't want to allow cheating. One of the systems that's totally locked down is Tower One, which is it's essentially a glorified PDF reader with a really good odometer, a really good compass inside of it. So it does all the things you need. So in NORA, the only approved device was the Tower One is an approved device. We let a couple guys ride with a different system called Terra Parata, which is like it's an interface system, but the problem is that only works good when you have cell service. It doesn't work good off grid, and if you're doing a good rally, you're off grid. So I would say digital. And what brand? I would say right now I would look at the Tower One. It's not cheap. I think it's a couple grand to get the full setup, but that's what things cost. And he does the DMD2. I don't know what that is. But if you want to just get in there and train, there's lots of apps that you can use. You go on adventurerider.com or just search what you're using. And then what road book training should I do? I know a guy, it might be me, that does an online with some in-person training, but I have to be careful with the in-person training because you have to provide your own insurance. I can do training, and evidently if you do my training, I've told people this before. They don't believe me. I'll tell you everything you need to know to win Dakar.
Confirmed.
Yeah, it's confirmed. Yeah, I told you all that stuff.
Ah.
Yeah, you did prompt to Dakar.
Yeah.
That was the stepping stones to where we're at now. Imagine that. And so, Jerry, I did put on, believe it or not, an event at one point or another. I actually put on an event with the help of some the Conways, Ray and Lori Conway. They're regulars on Ray and Lori Conway. They used to work at Honda.
Oh, yeah.
They're regulars at some of your
They live in
rides.
Prescott. They're in Prescott, and they're in the Prescott Trail Riders Club with me.
Right. So they were good friends of mine. We put on an event called Prompt to Dakar back in the day, and Big John and Jimmy Tyler and a whole group of these guys with KLRs. Oh no, wait, no, sorry, KDX. Yeah, you were a Kawasaki guy back. KDX 200. And I think you were all of at least 240 pounds in that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Put a road book reader on it, which was like, what, a lunchbox with some toothpicks in there that spun
No, I got it from you. It was an old
Acherbys one?
It was an Acherbys one. And I had to build a wonky bracket off the... Luckily, it was a KDX, so there was a lot of steel up there.
Well, I think I gave you all the stuff because I raced a KLR 650 in the Nevada Rally, and I figured, well, it's a Kawasaki. It'll probably bolt right up.
It mounted up quite well. I still had the headlight on it. It still had, and then I had a set of flex bars on it because same thing. I can't ride without them.
Right.
And then I had I think I want to say I mounted it off of one of the crossbars on the flex bars, like drilled holes in the crossbar.
That sounds familiar. Yeah. So when he's talking about going down to Mexico, I have a flat deck trailer with lock boxes. Should I buy an enclosed trailer or a van? Well, it's always better to have stuff locked up in a van, but most of the places we have, the availability of secured parking, and there's plenty of guys that just do it out of a truck, and bikes are in the back of the truck, or they chain their bikes together at the hotels and different things like that. So you don't necessarily need to, but if you leave anything out in certain places in Mexico, it just tends to disappear.
I run with if you're worried about it now, you're going to be worried about it there. So.
That's a really good way to look at it, for sure. What moose? And he's talking about the tire inserts, and he's never used them. And tire do you recommend? How many of each? Currently, I've been having really good luck with some Pirelli tires that I've been running, but they're kind of a rally spec tire, and they have a couple of ones. Problem is, in this type of an event, you're trading durability for performance. There's a fine line between those two things. I've been running the Nitro Mooses, the hard ones, not the plushies, and I get about 2,000 miles out of them. But for the first 1,200 to 1,500 miles, they're satisfactory for working on rally type conditions. But Michelin makes good mousses. Pirelli has mousses, hard to get. Metzler has mousses. Michelin's are always really good. But I would kind of try, if you're going to go with a brand that does not make or easy to get mousses, I would go with the Nitro mousses. If you have a Michelin tire, go with the Michelin ones. They'll tell you exactly which ones fit, and then you're in really good shape. You're just working with the least amount of failure points. And then last question: what pant and jacket do you recommend? What you want to guess, John?
Oh man, I'm gonna as a Climb owner.
Yeah.
Highly suggest that stuff.
Climb Dakar.
It's just
The Dakar stuff, even when it's hot, because the Dakar has the big vents in it.
The full leg vent from hip to knee
Is
beautiful.
Yeah, really good. I mean, you can do the Mojave stuff. Like in reality, I would have 2 sets of gear. I'd have one Dakar and one Mojave set, and I would have the Dakar jacket as my jacket for the colder mornings. But I also would wear the jersey that I was trying to that thick is it called a Revolt?
It's called
jersey?
the Revolt.
Well,
I think they changed the name
to
probably 10
Aggressor,
years ago or
like
something
Aggressor
like that. But
or
it used to
something.
be called the Revolt. It was
Yeah.
like a windbreaker with a kind of a soft mesh on the inside.
No. This is the completely vented jersey that's like made out of this like steel. It's like a very vented jersey. I think it's called the Aggressor jersey. I can never remember the names of things, but that's what I would have for when it got hot, because it has the puncture protection and the abrasion resistance of a jacket, but it's a jersey that's 100% vented, and you can stay cool. So
That's like, and this has nothing to do with Climb sponsoring anything, but that's where Climb, I swear, it outshines everything I try to wear, just because you can get a crazy amount more protection with less material, where all the kind of Moto brands are, as the time goes on, they lean closer and closer to tight fit and thin
Lighter weight,
material,
yep.
lighter weight, kind of. I wear kind of newer gear, and it's like, oh wow, this feels like I'm wearing nothing. Where at least like the Dakar pants, if I'm gonna go down, I want to be wearing.
I have pants that are 10 and 12 years old that have been that like I just can't throw them out because they're not bad. I give a lot of them away because I'm using new ones for photos all the times.
But they have such a, like, the inner knee is twice as thick as even like thick pair of pants, and then that upper thigh area that kind of is always getting beat up by bushes, and
right,
and then if you're wearing knee braces, that area is always kind of getting worn out, and like the especially the Dakar pants.
Yeah, Climb. Email me for a code. I might be able to help you out. I don't want to say it's inexpensive, but when you look at the longevity of the stuff, it's a bargain. And the like I said, the looks are pretty standard. They last for a long time.
Solid colors.
Yeah, I like my Climb stuff.
I wouldn't
I wouldn't be saying this just because they're sponsor of the show. But at the same time, I wear other people's gear when I'm doing photos all the time, and I wear it, and I don't think I've ever noticed like the weight of the once you put the pants on and stuff.
I'm sure
if you sit there, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you sit there and pick it up and you feel it, and they're like, oh yeah. So
I mean, it undisclosed brand. We went riding 2 times right before I broke my leg, and I wore through a brand new pair of undisclosed brand pants in 2 rides.
Yeah,
and like you said, you've had Dakar pants for 10 years, so. Yes, you might spend $50 more on a pair of really nice pants.
But when they last 3 or 4 years,
but if you don't if you're not replacing them,
Yeah. So Neil, with all your questions there, he says, hell, if you like this topic, tool setup, how to prep for a race, whatever you want to go off on, and I will listen. Well, you not only do you need to listen, you need to get 650 of your friends to listen to this podcast, and then I'll go off on the questions. He raced motocross in the 80s and 90s, cross country and hare scrambles in the early 2000s. A year and a half ago, he sold the MX bike as it had to free flight to the Calgary hospital. Oh, he had a little problem, so he bought the Rally. Hey, you know what? You can get free flights out of anywhere on any motorcycle, period. So don't think that selling your motocross bike is going to prevent that from happening. Do not confuse moving on to dual sport or adventure bikes with safety. They're all dangerous. He's not a pro and he's over 50. I just want to have a challenge. Go or stay home.
Go for sure.
Yeah.
That does go back to his other question about tires.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you've got money and stuff, I'd bring an extra set, but you're not going to wear an average 50-year-old rider. You're not wearing out a set of those Pirellis in 1,000 miles.
No, I do my full peninsula run when we're pre-running and checking the course and verifying it and stuff. I do it on one set of tires. I bring an extra set of wheels, but I rarely ever use them. Yeah. Or I go down there on half worn out ones, and halfway through I
get a set of freshies midway.
Throw a new set on. I have them there, but yeah, it's not that difficult.
But yeah, I mean, if it's possible, I would bring an extra set of wheels laced up with good shoes and mooses, and like have a full setup with you.
Yeah.
But like as far as changing tires midway, no way.
Yeah, shouldn't need to do it. I say go down there with a few air filters, set up to do an oil and filter change halfway down the race, and an extra set of wheels. Have a spare chain. I'm trying to think of the stuff I have in my little box. That I go down there. I have spare brake pads, spare chain, spare fuel pump, spare fuel filter.
Levers.
Levers for the tip over stuff. I've since I run flex handlebars, I've never in all of my riding since I've been running flex handlebars, and we're going on 20 years now, I have never bent.
I don't think you can.
Oh, you can. I've seen. I asked Cole. It's like, oh, you get them back? He goes, yeah, people send them back, because they'll rebuild them. Yeah,
because I would assume.
Hey, did you like the title screen I used for the last time you were on the show? By the way,
I don't know. I might not have watched.
You didn't see it?
I don't watch my own shows.
Okay, I'm just checking. I put a special one up for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, had your video. Okay, so got one last question here. I think this is one last question. Just checking to see where it's at. Yeah, this is the last question. So Heath Taylor says, guys, I was wondering if I could get some advice. Well, that's what we do on this show. I want a 250F motocross bike, KX, YZF, SXF, FC, CRF. Bike that doesn't pull super hard and a bike that doesn't need to be clutched too much when the power comes on. A slower roll-on of power delivery. What would you recommend? Thanks for anything you put forward. So I'm going to be honest with you here, because I have to tell you that the number one choice for any discerning rider in the 250F motocross category is the Yamaha YZ250F. You've watched what the young punk Hayden Deegan did, winning all these motos on his bike, right?
I thought everyone said he's on the 450.
Oh, he's right. Oh, is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Alleged.
Oh, yeah, because they look kind of the same. And then this old guy that's retiring, he went out and won a moto on a YZ250F. So if you're looking for a motocross bike with a kid can ride and an adult, I don't, because he didn't tell me how old you were, Heath, or your weight or anything and stuff like that. So it's obviously YZ250F. But if I'm being blatantly honest, if you want a bike that doesn't pull super hard and has a roll-on, and you didn't even list it, it's the RMZ. Check out Dirt Bike Test. Look at our test. We actually had a vet guy fix up an RMZ to his liking, and the problem is you have to kickstart it. Which exactly. But the RMZ is probably the most mellow of the power deliveries in there. And then after that, the KTM brands tend to have a smoother type of roll-on, where the Yamaha has some bark. But with the Yamaha Power Tuner app, which I have right here on my phone, and I can send you a map that'll mute that power down. You can turn that motor into anything with the Yamaha Power Tuner app, which is free. You can have the app without even having the bike. It just doesn't work on your Suzuki.
Which that's really good from. I mean, I'm just gonna make an assumption that that's a novice rider that's talking.
But yeah, based on
if you're
the
looking
question.
for a 250F that doesn't do anything, that you're not expecting. The tuner is really awesome for that style of riding, because as you get better, you can go, oh, okay, this thing's maybe a little too mellow for me. I want to, or hey, I'm
Yeah, as opposed to
fresh.
buying a bike that's kind of limited by that characteristic.
Hey, I'm feeling fresh in the morning. I want this thing to be a little more rowdy, and then
I get tired. Well,
Yeah, you can play
and the
with it.
Yamaha has dual maps.
Yep.
So you can have two maps, so you can can be rowdy, and then in 1 second you can push the button, you can have a mellow map in there. Like even my WR right now, I have two very distinctly different maps. And here's the other thing, while I remember this, Heath, when you're thinking about this, is maybe consider getting the FX model of the Yamaha or the CRF X model or the KX model. Don't get the motocross one. Get the one that they're calling the X or the off-road model, because sometimes they come with a slightly different power tune and the suspension is a little bit tuned down. And I promise you that if you soften the suspension, the power delivery, even if it was the same, gets a little bit easier to ride. Don't if you don't believe me, get the opportunity to ride them back to back, and then you will again believe me. So anyhow. That's our best answer. But yeah, I would recommend going with like an X bike to begin with, and then or the Suzuki possibly, and go from there. Let us know if you do that. Let us know how it goes. I always like to hear how this stuff turns out for our different riders. But that's it. So we have to have who has to give us our guy. Dennis Green has to send me an email so I remember that he won Rooster Endo. Jerry, thanks a lot for joining us again. It's probably way past your bedtime. You know. Nate said he was going to watch. I guarantee that guy fell asleep already. And if you want to see Crazy Nate, watch the new Honda CRF XR150. I can't. That's all right in the video. I say it's hard to say XR150 video.
Back XRs.
Nate makes a cameo appearance in that one. Thank you, Big John, for coming on the show. We did our job. We polished off the Tinta Negra. There's
I have a suggestion for you on that.
Okay, what's that?
For your Cinco de Mayo show, you have a 21 shooter salute.
We're more into the kind of like the sipping of the tequila. It's like, when we say polish off a bottle, we're usually going to the ones that are at the kind of end of their road. I'm going to do a tequila podcast here pretty soon. I don't know why, but because I said I was.
Oh, we have
somebody probably told me that I couldn't do it, so I decided I'll just try it anyways. But I'd like to thank all of our participants from joining into the chat. I'm going to look one last time to make sure we've answered all of the questions. Oh boy, we got a couple more. Mark Daniels, smart move. He says put wheel bearings in that toolbox. Excellent thing, because I have had to pull wheel bearings out of my good spare wheels to throw in my buddy's wheels that went wheel bearings, and then I ran into another friend. It's amazing how this happens in Mexico. He's like, oh, yeah, I got those in my van back in – he was in Mulegé or something like that. And then when my chase driver and he got back to his van, they passed each other on the road. They recognized each other. There was an exchange of wheel bearings.
Motorcycle people find motorcycle people.
Jennifer Morton suggested fly in and rent a rally bike prepped and ready to go with bib mooses from Baja-bound Moto. If you want to go riding down in Baja just on a tour, or you want to do a race with professional assistance that knows how to get you to the finish line, Baja-bound Moto is definitely where you want to go.
I'm a huge fan of guided, like that style of, because at the end it's probably cheaper. I mean, it's definitely cheaper.
It's cheaper than the mistake you're going to make if you don't know what you're doing in Mexico.
A bike, buying wheels, going down to Mexico by yourself, getting lost. I mean, you're going to have a rough time.
Agreed. BC Cruz says, for a minute, thought the stash guy was Steve Mattress. Glad it wasn't One Up. No, Big John is not better known as a Steve. Dirty Doyle. I have a carbureted 252 stroke KTM. My buddy has the exact same bike with a different carb. His was way faster, and we did back-to-back compression tests, and his had 34 or 38 more PSI. Would love your opinion. Well, different carb is probably the biggest thing. I don't know that 30. Well, here's the thing about compression tests. Was your bikes, when you did the compression test, at the exact same temperature? Were you running the exact same fuel and oil You know, how there's so many things. Compression tests are a good tool if you do them consistently on your own bike with your same compression tester. I don't know that using it to determine the performance between two different bikes is the same, because, you know, it's telling you a little bit about how the wear, I would think. But then again, does his bike have more compression? Does it have a higher compression cylinder, piston, head?
Also, is that
port timing?
Is that 38 more psi? Is that like, 120 versus 170? Or is that, are we on the top end?
Right. Or is it dropping below where service intervals are? I used to do compression tests back when I had a KX80, and my dad was so worried because two strokes just blew up every time he rode them, and which they didn't. He was just he had a Bull Taco, and then we had Honda XRs, so you can understand why the two stroke was not a very durable thing. But the KX80s were incredible. But we did compression. We had a checklist that we had to do before we were riding. We had to do a compression test to make sure that it wasn't, quote, worn out, because they could wear out in an instant, evidently. But I would say that even if you have the exact same bike, the different carb would probably account for the majority of what that is. What kind of carb that is, I don't know. If yours has a Mikuni and his has a Kian, or one of them has the Electron, or what are the other ones called these days? The quick carb or smart carb. Smart carb. They all have different feels. And when you say way faster, I'd be really interested to know what that means. Like, did you do a third gear roll on, or did you do a drag race? Because he may be a better rider, and he may be turning the throttle farther sooner. So if you're going to do back-to-back on bikes, you need to switch riders. That's another thing that we do here. When we do roll-ons and stuff like that, especially when there's a weight difference between riders or they're not familiar with our procedure, I always switch bikes to make sure that the results are duplicated by the bike, not by the rider. So that's my opinion. And Heath Taylor says, "Will do, thanks." Awesome. He's stuck on the show.
I dig it.
For that long, because I told him to watch the show and I would answer his question, because it was an email question. So Heath emailed me the question, and some of these questions come off of so if you're listening to this and you're like, I need Jimmy to answer this question, or Big John to answer this question, send in the email. We'll get to it. Mike Kament, how much can you increase bottom end via Yamaha Power App? You can change the character quite a bit, and it feels like it's making more or less power. So you can increase what we call snap, what the snap feel. So if you want snappier, you would definitely, you can lean out the fuel and you can hotten up the ignition. I don't like to say retard, but you would want to unretard the ignition. So percentage wise, I wonder how. I want to say there's a 15. It's probably. To me, it feels like you can make it 15% more aggressive and 25% less aggressive than stock. You can mute it or increase it, the feeling that much. The actual power that's coming out, and is it actually quicker? Yeah, it's debatable, but you can change the feel. I mean, some people would say maybe 10% up and 15% down. I'm going to go with 15% up and 25 down, I guess. That's what I get.
And that is, I mean, the feel is what most people are talking about when they talk about power anyways.
Yeah.
Like he's not looking for the dyno chart to have 2 more horsepower down low. He's just trying to adjust where.
Yeah. Yeah, if you think if you think
the line.
And if you think a Yamaha doesn't have bottom end, and it's like, and then when people talk about like where is bottom end, like that's a different thing too. And I know heavier guys feel like they're a lot of times their bottom end is actually kind of into the mid range.
But it's higher on the RPM, or
yeah,
because the bike's not moving.
Yeah, it's not moving. Yeah, it's pulling. So in a lot of times when you're testing, it's like the weight of the guy kind of determines. And like a bike, I feel a snappy, a heavy guy will go. It's dead. It doesn't have that kind of. It doesn't have the pull I want, because they want it to pull down low. So yeah, I think in reality the Yamahas have the kind of they have increased bottom end compared to the other bikes, but you can make it. I call it unrideable. Like I'm on my Yamaha 450s, I'm killing the bottom end on the Power Tuner app. That's what I do.
You're trying to hold on to that thing for a couple hours.
And with the muffler, I'm running like Q mufflers with smaller inserts in them and these different things. Roger Doggerel, Spike Racing says, much love, great show, fun stuff. And then Sam Felipe Bob comments that Baja Bound is simply the best, and a leak down tester will tell the condition as well. On a 4-stroke, though, not really on a 2-stroke.
You can still do leak down.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
I would prefer that over a compression test to tell me where I'm going with it. But at the end of the day, I'm usually just an hour guy.
Yeah, I'm a feel guy, feel and sound. I know, and it just from experience. But I can tell when my bikes are starting to lose a little bit of power, and I can tell when they're making like the kind of the rattly or ticky noises, and then at that point I kind of know where to go.
Which 2-strokes are a lot easier for that feel than 4-strokes. Because the 2-stroke,
Agreed.
Because 2-stroke, if you put an average person on it and they hold it wide open, they'll go, "Oh, this thing runs fine." Because at higher RPMs, they get hot, they swell, they make compression, and they run strong. But it's you lose that bottom end on a 2-stroke. Is the first thing to go is the bottom end and that kind of start getting them started and stuff.
Yeah,
like
and
that
4-stroke, there's a lot of stuff to go.
Yeah,
and what it's like if the valves are a little loose and flapping, or the valves are a little tight and there's blow. There's a lot of different scenarios where 2-strokes are relatively simple in that thing. I got one last question here. I think B Cruz says his son's 85 XS has no rear brake. Oh man, imagine that. Not kidding. That because I think they're using those Brake Tech or something like that.
Yeah.
And I know this is a problem on the smaller KTM mini bikes. Bleed it and it has no air. Should I chase master cylinder or caliper problem?
Bleed it again. Bleed it again.
Bleed it again.
Back bleed it. Vacuum bleed it. Just
if you're pretty sure all the air is out of it, that's the thing. But typically when the caliper starts going bad, you're going to see some leaking. Because if it's good, it's good. It's holding pressure. So most of the time it is the master cylinder, and it's just the seal inside of the master cylinder can have a little piece of dirt in there, and it just can't build pressure. It's essentially a piston with worn out rings, and it's just blowing up, and it's not pumping the pressure out there. But I've seen air bubbles get in there. I've seen sometimes where the reservoir is, sometimes the reservoir between the reservoir and the piston plugs, and it won't allow the fluid to go back down in there. So a lot of times I've seen people adjust the pedal up to a position where the pedal doesn't return and it never opens up the chamber, so the fluid actually never replenishes, and then a lot of times the brake will still work, and then since the fluid can't get out, it heats up and it pumps it out. It pumps it past, and then all of a sudden there's a negative pressure in there, and it'll either pump up and drag the brakes, and it'll lock up, or
pack the caliper,
or it'll heat it up, and then it'll boil the fluid, which produces air, and then it doesn't bleed. So I would say that the problem is probably in either the adjustment of the pedal. So make sure that pedal has a little bit of free play, and that piston is returning enough to suck the new fluid back into the piston chamber so it can pump it into the system. And if that isn't the case and it's stuff, I would say look at the master cylinder, and they make rebuild kits for those things where you can just put some new ring bands on that, and it should make the problem go away. And I don't use any power bleeders and stuff like that. I just pump it through the system.
I'm a huge fan of the back bleed with a turkey baster.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're opening up the thing and just pumping it backwards to blow.
I send it right in the Zert and blow it up at the top.
And that's a great way to do it. When you, I mean, a lot of times they can kind of gravity fill, depending on the angles of stuff. But a lot of times the rear brake, because that hose sometimes goes up over where the master cylinder is, it's a little difficult to get that air out. And a good, like you say, back bleed with a turkey baster.
And I think that the KTM, I swear they use the same length brake line for all the minis. Because they put a huge loop in front of the rear shock. So like when it comes up the right side of the swing arm, and it does a big loop into the banjo.
Right.
The 65s are a smaller loop, and the 50s have a I mean, it's a massive loop on the back.
Yeah, and John knows this because he's got 2 little grommets.
I'm a mini guy.
Yeah, all they do is make him work on the motorcycles, and I tell him, you know what, you need to get them working on the motor. They need to learn how to do what I just told.
Yeah.
Bleed the brakes, kids.
I got my 8-year-old. He cleans his own air filters and stuff. But the 6-year-olds.
Then he needs to do push-ups. Anytime you're working on the motorcycle, he needs to be doing push-ups.
I did that. Someone told me I was wrong up at your place a couple weeks ago.
You made him do push-ups?
I made him do push-ups. I was thinking it was your wife, actually.
She doesn't have any kids, so don't ask her. I don't either, but I'd probably be in jail if I had kids. So, okay. So, thanks for the answer. Was thinking on the 250. Thanks, Mike Kamet. Okay. Well, that's it. We're going to wrap this show up. We've been going, geez, this is a 2.5-hour show. We broke the internets, John.
We're doing good.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Thank you to Jerry Counts for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all the fans fans and friends. 32 million of you have watched the show. Although you didn't make the 100 million comments like we could do, so we can get some special badges or something like that. Top fans, all the things we do. John, thanks for coming out. We had some good tacos tonight, and there's a couple leftovers. I'm going to be cramming those things down my throat here in a second, and we'll see you out in the trail. There may or may not be a show next week because I'm supposed to be at a Triumph intro riding a Triumph 450 off-road bike. Maybe I'll go live. I'm working on my new live system, and if I can figure out how to make it work.
Right now, time I was going to ask you about Fantics too.
I don't know. They're not Yamahas.
Why?
They look like them. Yeah, so, okay, guys. With that, we're going to see you out on the trail, and cheers. Man. I gotta figure out make this stop. There's a button. There's a button here. I gotta push someplace. I stop. Where is it? There we go. Bye. If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.